Is welcome to another episode of Vahagraphy Talk. You guys know Chuck over there from Chuck Talks, AP Studios, our co-host today.
Howdy.
And today's I gotta mute this 1 second. There you go.
Nothing like
We're
live.
live. Yeah, and our special guest, man, Mr. Bobby Tonelli. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Well, first of all, it's very nice to meet you.
Hey, likewise. Been a fan of your channel for quite some time, and thank you for having me on. Then this is awesome.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. It's a pleasure, man. We're gonna get into a lot of things, a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of photography talk here on Vahagraphy Talk,
yes.
and uh, and have some fun.
Let's
Chuck,
do it.
you ready?
I'm ready, man.
All right. Well, people are streaming in right now. We got the chat going on. Bobby, so
Hmm.
man, I was doing some research on you. I mean, I knew you had a channel. I knew you talk photography. I knew you reviewed, and you do an excellent job reviewing gear.
Hey, thanks a lot. Really
Um,
appreciate that.
But then I started digging a little deeper, and I found out that, dude, television,
Mm,
modeling,
mm.
you name it, man. Well, first of all, you wanted to be a baseball player, right? When teenager.
Yeah, yeah, man. I was. I mean, I grew up in Las Vegas, so baseball was my dream as a kid since I was 4 years old, and then in high school, tore my rotator cuff. I was a pitcher, lefty, but that didn't work out. As those things happen, and then I got more into the entertainment side of things, and yeah, from there, just sort of spawned into this world of going to Asia and working in Europe for a little bit, living in LA, and it was just a wild ride, man. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, that's the Cliff Notes version of the story, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I was yeah, that's crazy. You tore your rotator cuff
Mm,
and you
yeah.
kind of had to, do some nows. How did that feel, by the way? I know, it's tough, right? I mean,
Yeah. It's tough,
imagine.
man. It's tough because it's your dream, when it's your dream and something happens, and when something physically happens to you, and it sort of, no matter what you do, it's going to limit your performance. It's a wake-up call. It's really a wake-up call. And that was sort of like one of my first big life lessons is like, okay, these are the cards that are dealt to me, and I can either cry about it or wallow in sorrow, or I can just pick up the pieces and say, look, there's other things I can do. I'm still young. I still have so many other aspects of my life that I enjoy. And so I was always fascinated with the entertainment industry. And then, of course, acting and hosting and those kind of things. So I started doing that in college, and I was studying criminal law and sports medicine. So I thought about at one time going into the FBI, CIA. That was sort of like a path I wanted to take. And then I realized I didn't know if I had the mental prowess for that. That takes a very strong person to do that.
Yeah.
And not to say I'm not strong, but I mean, there's also a factor of your life that you have to give up, and
You're right.
that you have to pick up at any point in time and leave, and relationships can be at a cost and things like
Yep.
that. So I wasn't too sure if I was willing to do that at that point in time, but I did learn a lot, and I was fascinated by it. And my respect to all the men and women in blue, because what they do sometimes people give it's a thankless job for a lot of people, but what they do is so pertinent, and I have the highest respect for them.
You're right. You're right. As do most of us in the
Mm,
community.
yeah.
Man, yeah, so I started digging deeper and I'm like, "No, dude, movies, TV shows, modeling, and I'm like, man, this guy's got quite a resume. And by the way, you do have a Wikipedia page too,
Oh man, bringing
which
this up.
which I checked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You just type in Bobby Tonelli
Mm,
and it's right there. By the way, I have a
yeah.
question. To be
Sure.
on Wikipedia, do you have to submit something, or they pick you up? They see
Uh
the stuff you've
it's
done, or how does it work?
It's a mix. So sometimes they will pick you up, but I mean, it's also you can self-generate it as well. And so part of it is people adding things in, or production companies adding things in as and when. But I did start mine up a bit because being in the industry at the time where I was really focused on that, it's sort of like your resume. It's online, and so I did start it years ago, but then I haven't touched it in a long time, and it probably needs to be updated.
Yeah.
But I know sometimes it does get updated. I get notifications that some people update it here and there, but yeah, it's
Well, it's nice. It
it's really
chronicles your life. You don't have to do it. If
yeah.
everybody else pitches in, that's great.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's cool.
I
that
can't
way,
remember
but,
what I did last week. I need a Wikipedia page.
Hey, people are streaming in right now. I want to say hi to the chat. Hey guys,
Yeah.
if you could hit that like button, let's get likes in this live stream, Vahagraphy Talk. I'd really
Yeah.
appreciate it. So yeah, it was really cool, man. I started like watching your videos, your interviews and TV shows, car reviews, and what was that famous car show?
We did one. It's
Top
called
Gear.
Celebrity Car Wars. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Top Gear. There's one like Top Gear. Yeah, we did one sort of like that in Asia. Yeah,
Mm.
so I was doing something like that for computers for a History Channel, but the History Asia channel. So I was doing that here.
That's awesome, man. Hey, by the way, guys, we're gonna open up the live stream to whoever wants to join us at the tail end here and talk to Bobby live.
Yeah.
So you transitioned. I mean, you're still doing that, right? The TV stuff
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
That's my day job. That's what pays the bills. You know,
What-
I'm a fledgling YouTuber, I guess you could say, on the side as a hobby of mine. It's more of a passion project to talk about gear and explore and play with it. But to pay the bills, I host a lot of events. I still do TV and things like that.
Yeah, your voice, the way you present yourself, very professional. Very.
Thank
Do
you.
you have to
And
training?
no,
for
come
this?
on, Boggin. He's the whole package. I mean, come
The
on.
looks. You got the
My
look.
wife even said it. She saw. She goes, "Wow, he's the whole package."
You're very kind. It's a lot of good lighting in this studio. I paid for a lot of good lighting. No, you're very, very kind. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you.
You're like the Brad Pitt of Singapore.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
That's funny. Junk email says, quick question before we start the podcast. Well, we'll answer this. I'm traveling to Alaska this summer and I'm bringing my Z6 camera. I'm renting a lens. Which one would you recommend? Bobby, want to tackle this one?
I think if you're going to Alaska, you got to go wide angle because of all the mountains and landscapes and everything. 14 to 30. I think Chuck, you use that lens quite a bit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic lens, actually.
Yeah.
But I was thinking both ways, Bobby. For me, and this is just it. Everybody's going to have their own preference. For me, if I could do it, I would have a 24 to 70 and a 1 to 400.
Ooh.
I think you cover just about everything with that.
True. Good point.
Or maybe a 24 to 120.
Yeah,
Just have one lens.
It just depends, on what you can have or what you can get or whatever. Yep.
True.
Robert Silver, what's up, brother? Let's see. Junk email says, I know this is a Nikon channel, but I would love a Leica just for the little red dot on the bottom.
That little red dot is very intoxicating. Very intoxicating.
So I loved your latest M11 reviews.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
Really killer. But I have a question, which
Sure.
this is the question that a lot of photographers ask Leica shooters, enthusiasts, hobbyists, users. Is there such thing as a Leica look?
There is, but I think that Leica look comes from it's from the lens, obviously. I mean, I think this all started from the Mandler designs of the lens. And that's something that I think you see from the 75 1.4, from the 50 f1, from the older pre-spherical, let's say 50 Summilexes and stuff like that. And then Peter Carbet, which is he's the more recent designer for Leica lenses, from I think the late 90s all the way till today, which are very sharp, very clinical, almost perfect lenses, oppo, spherical, all that stuff. And they still have a look to them, but I think that dreamy sort of Leica look comes from Walter Mandler's designs, which are renowned by collectors and people love those lenses. And the vintage lenses, as a matter of fact, it's like investing in crypto in a sense, but a little bit more stable. They just keep going up in value because fewer out there are in good condition. So to me, that Leica look always stands. That's what it means to me, at least.
There he is, John Ishii. Hi, Bobby from Hong Kong.
What's up, John? By the way, John's wife
John,
is a phenomenal photographer.
Yeah, John, I actually addressed your question to me in the email. He said he would love to drop by sometime. So there you have it, John.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, Diana Ishii. Yeah, she has quite an awesome
photographer. Yeah,
that's cool. How far are you guys? You're in Singapore, and John is from Malaysia.
Right. So we're about an hour flight. It's kind of like LA to Vegas. It's kind of like that distance away.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Sith says, "Aloha, guys." He's from Hawaii. I've been watching Bobby's Leica SL2S videos. Awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun camera to use.
So you're okay. I want to ask, what
Sure.
why photography? Like, how you were you always into photography, or you said, "Let me do this. I love the gear."
No, it's something as a kid. I mean, when I would go, I'm from Las Vegas, right? And was raised an only child, and I would go back to my dad's family's home in Pennsylvania. And every summer night we would sit there and we would look at slideshows and see all the photos that they would take throughout the years, and I would learn about my family and all the past. So photography was always a big aspect of my life in terms of how I learned about my family, how I learned about life and everything else like that. My dad always loved to take photos as well. He had a Minolta Himatic 2, and then when I got into college, I needed to take an elective, and I thought, let's take photography. So my dad picked me up a Nikon camera. I forget which one it was. I mean, we're talking like 1995. It wasn't a top end one, but I think it was gray and black and color. I was trying to find it in the house, but I couldn't find it. I think it's long gone. But I took a little bit of photography, film photography in university for a bit, and then after a while, I wasn't into it so much. I was quite shy in front of the camera when it came to photography. But as I got more into the acting and things like that, I started asking photographers, and I got into the modeling. I was sitting in the cinematographers. I started asking more about their gear. And it was always fascinating because, when you're in front of the camera, it always helps to know what the person behind the camera is using and how they're using the gear. Because if you make their job easier, they're going to make your job easier.
Yes.
And there's this cohesive element that goes into a shoot. And I realized how important that was. And then from there, I started learning, and I got a Sony. I remember I got a Sony digital camera. I forget what it was. And I mean, this is 2004, right? And I mean, just a few megapixels back in those days. And I brought it to Singapore because I was shooting a feature film, and the DP wanted to use it to shoot some behind the scenes shots, and it got stolen off the set. So I said, okay, got to add insurance on it, luckily. And I got a replacement, a Canon 20D. And that was kind of my first foray into more of a pseudo professional camera. And from there, I just started playing with gear more and more. And
did it have to do anything with Randy Johnson? I mean, because he's a pitcher, right?
Yeah,
Randy Johnson.
Yeah, of course. No, it had nothing to do with anything with baseball at all. Actually, had nothing to do with that.
But he got into photography when he retired.
Awesome.
He's a professional photographer now.
Oh, fantastic!
Randy Johnson.
Know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yep. From the Yankees, right?
Yeah.
He retired. He's also a big fan of rock music. So, it was awesome. He's a big Rush fan. I love Rush, the band. But
fantastic.
Yeah. So, let's see. Jay Perry. I got tired of waiting for the Z8, so I bought the Z9 last Friday. Now, looking like I should have waited. I don't think so, Jay, because we don't know what Z8 or what that is right now. So,
what is that? What is that rumored camera? We haven't heard of this camera. I mean.
It doesn't exist. That's what everybody's saying.
I haven't seen the last 30 videos on YouTube about it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's only an hour. 30 videos on the Z8's an hour long. That's the last hour.
I know.
What's your take on that? Like, do you welcome that, like speculation and fun talk, or you just want to wait?
Totally. I love it. I mean, it keeps the buzz going. And I think the brands love it too, because it's the best marketing for them of all time. When you've got rumor mills and then what was I saw one a couple of days ago where it was the spec sheet blurred out. I'm like, oh man, what a tease is this? You know, I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, but it's great because I love the conversation. And I mean, I do it with my friends all the time here and abroad. We just chat about gear coming up, what we think is going to come out, what we hope is going to come out. And then, then when it does release, it's like, There
are some people out there that are crushing our dreams, though. I mean, let's keep hope alive. Just enjoy the thought of what it might be.
Yeah.
Wayne Maddox is a Sony shooter, but he also uses Nikon. I think he uses Sony for his videos and Nikon for his travel. I think he's Where's Wayne live? I think he's from your area too.
He doesn't live anywhere yet. He's searching for a home. I mean, he'll tell you that. He's actually traveling Asia, and just trying to find out where he wants to settle after, since he's retired. But I think he was just in Hong Kong. He may still be in Hong Kong.
Oh, cool.
John Ishii, so good to see you, Bobby.
Yeah. Hey, great to see. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
So, yeah, we got sometimes because I put out videos too. Sometimes I put rumor videos just to just to have fun.
You got to have fun with this gear. I mean, that's what it's all about. Part of this is to actually talk and have fun with gear. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I enjoy about it, at least.
Mozman, the Z8. I'm shooting the Z8 tomorrow with Jeff. We'll come on the stream.
I'm sure there's some in the wild already. I mean, for sure. I mean, I think they've been testing this for quite some time. So I think there are people out there that probably even on the stream that already probably even have it that just can't talk about it.
Oh yeah, the NDA that Nikon has in place right now is bulletproof.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I don't think I've ever seen no leaks. And that's the way it appears right now.
You're very welcome, Junkie Mill. You're very welcome.
The Department of Defense in the U.S. could take a lesson from Nikon on keeping things secret.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Except when I think Nikon's actually starting to release some stuff, kind of tease the audience a bit.
I think they know they have to, because we're all going to start fighting with each other.
Hey, Chuck. It says, Chuck, mention my Leica experience.
Which one, John? John has a video out talking about his Leica cameras and lenses, which is really nice. It's a fun watch. But he was in Mongolia, and I don't know if that's the one you want me to mention. I'll leave it to you, John, to finish that up. But he didn't have a great experience with Leica in Mongolia. The temperatures seem to be a problem.
Yeah, hey, Touch Life Studios. What's up, buddy? Great guest, Bobby T. I love what Vahagan does, bringing guests from around the world. Thanks for enriching photography community. Hey, you're very welcome. Well, and I love the guests that we have. It's great to pick you guys' brains, and because I'm a YouTube fan too, man. I watch and I see what other people are doing, and I respect everybody's talent and what they do. And so is it hard to be in front of a camera in like a production, like TV, or I mean, did you have to go to some training? You went to acting class, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, took a lot of classes on that, because I was a very shy kid growing up. Like I did not talk to a lot of people, and I was very much an introvert. So it took a lot of practice to be comfortable in front of the camera, and they still get nervous. I mean, every time. I mean, you still get a little bit of those jitters in your stomach or when you start, rolling and stuff like that. But I think as an actor, you're sort of portraying a character. So once you get into that mindset, you start forgetting everything that's around you. But when you're hosting a TV show, it's very different because you're yourself in a way. So it's, it doesn't ever go away, but I think you just get used to it more and more. And I just one of the biggest lessons I had learning about being in front of the camera was the lenses. This is your best friend. You guys are having a great conversation. You're chatting. It can see when you're lying, it can see when you're telling the truth. So just be you and, be authentic. And that's the most important thing. That's what I learned.
Well, that's one of the things about a live stream. It brings out it authenticates you as to who you are. In videos, you can cheat the system all day long. But when you're on a live stream and you have to answer questions that are off the cuff and everything else, you show who you are. And I think that people love that, though. I really do.
You're right. You're right, Chuck. I guess and I think we talked about this at the beginning, is that this is, I think, the future of where YouTube reviews are going and conversations on gear and educational aspects, because this live aspect, I mean, podcasts have taken off, and I think we've seen the most well-produced videos out there, and from reviews and everything, and they're great to watch. If you want to watch a bite-sized 5-minute, 7-minute video or 10 minutes, you've got that. But to sit and have a conversation to hear like the three of us just chat about stuff and learn from each other, there's so much value in that it's hard to put that into a well-produced video. You know what I mean? You got to cut some things out. Some things get missed, you know what I mean? Throw on the editing floor, and
I think that spooks a lot of people. They're afraid to do it though, because they're afraid. I mean, you're on the spot again. Like I said, there are no retakes. What you say is who you are, and everybody gets to take that away.
Yeah.
And that bothers some people. And maybe some are just very introverted, like you talked about when you were younger. I was the
Mm.
same way. And now it's just a matter of, I've gotten used to it now. You know,
Mm.
I tell my wife all the time, I hate the way I look. I hate the way I sound. She says, well, nobody else cares. So why should you?
Yeah.
It's true. It's a good point. I mean, I think that's the thing is we're most critical of ourselves, and sometimes the audience doesn't see these things at all. They just want to hear a good conversation, see a good personality on air, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Alan, most guys buying the Z9 R3s A1s, but I'm just enjoying my Z5 and 2040. Yeah, man, whatever works for you, man. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome. You don't need the latest gear sometimes. It's the gear that speaks to you the most. That's what I always find. I mean, sometimes I
There
like just
you
to
go.
take out a film camera and shoot because it speaks to me. I mean, there's no eye tracking, there's no autofocus. It's just, well, I mean, you can if you're using like an F6 or an F5 for that example, or S1. But you know what I mean? Like you have, it doesn't matter what the gear is, man. It's just what speaks. That's how I think at least on it.
Yeah.
I saw your Nikon knocked review on Tech
Oh,
360.
yeah, yeah.
Tech 360 TV. Are you still hosting that or?
No, I was with them for about a good 4 years, and then I worked. Then I went to a channel called Geek Culture, which does a lot of various different things. Not so much camera stuff, but I mean, once in a while, but more various different tech, consumer tech, things like that, and collectibles. And then part of the thing was when I left Tech 360. I mean, I kind of, in a sense, built that channel up primarily on photography, I would say. I mean, it's laptops and some phones, but primarily on cameras. And then when I left there was an audience who said, hey, man, when are you going to do reviews again? Are you going to do it? And then Geek Culture was not doing so much on cameras, but on other things. And so I said, let me start my own channel to kind of get back to what I was talking about prior to that, And that's, where I kind of started about a year ago on that.
Nice. Hey, the drunk wedding photographer. What's up, man? I like his name. It's great. Vitali from Touch Life Studio has a question. Bobby, what's the most used camera brand in Asia? What's Bobby's favorite camera? Good question.
Most used camera brand, I think, right now here is Sony, 100%. I think Sony's the dominant force out here. And you still see a lot of Canons and a lot of Nikons, but I think, Sony has just done a tremendous job on their marketing and really pushing it out here. And my favorite, that's the $1 million question, man. This sounds very cliche, but I don't have a favorite. I love every brand for what they offer. I mean, we talked about, I'm using the Nikon Z9 right now for this stream, which has been my go-to for most of my video and photography stuff for the past year. I just think it's one of the best full-featured hybrid cameras on the market, hands down. I mean, what Nikon's done with it is fantastic, and we'll probably chat about that later on in this stream. But I mean, I just like every camera brand's doing. There's certain aspects I love with Fujifilm and Hasselblad and Leica and Nikon and Canon. So I can't answer that question, man. I really can't. But I can say that the camera that I've used primarily the most in 2022 to 2023 thus far has probably been the Z9.
Nice. I have a Z9. Chuck has a Z9. Most Touch Life, Vitali, he has a channel. He has a Z9.
Awesome.
A lot of Mozman, everybody. Johnny She has a Z9.
Yeah.
But so I saw your reviews. See like your telephoto reviews, your 800 review, Leica, obviously Hasselblad. But so what do you? Because I want to bring up this question because a lot of these guys have channels like Touch Life Studio here on the screen. We have channels. Are you like? Do you get the gear and review it? Like, how does it work? You buy it or you rent it or what is it?
No. So, I mean, there are times where I'll borrow it from friends, but for the most part, I mean, obviously Singapore is a smaller market than I would say than America, of course. And so, being in this sort of been in the tech review space for a number of years here through Tech 360, as you mentioned, and then Geek Culture, and then now on my own with Geek Culture as well, is that I do know a lot of the brands. And so I get to work with a lot of the marketing departments out there so they can pass me the cameras to use for review. But they all know that this is editorial, that they don't have a say in what I think of the camera. So there's no like, oh, you pass me the camera, but you have to say good things. It's not like that at all. There's more,
Yeah.
because I think the brands they know when they have a good product and they know when they don't. You know what I mean? I don't need to. I'm not telling them something that their production team or product developers, they already don't know themselves. So, yeah, that's kind of how it works. So a lot of the cameras that I do get are on loan, you know, and I think it's how a lot of reviewers get for, you know, for the most part. I mean, some do buy them themselves, but because our return policy here is quite strict versus America, we just can't like buy a camera, use it for 2 weeks and then return it. We just can't do that. I think we have like a 7-day policy if I have that at max. And even then it's like, once it's opened, you don't get a full refund, or maybe you can't get your money back, but you can exchange it for another product. So it's a little bit different here in Asia for how we do things, because it's a smaller market. So for the most part, we do rely on PR companies and the companies themselves to get the camera gear.
Cool, man. Yeah, that telephoto. What did you think of that 800-6.3?
Oh man, I love it, man. I love it. I think Nikon, I mean, obviously Nikon has done what they do with their telephoto lenses is fantastic. And I think their whole range I've enjoyed it. Now I know there's some people that complain about the 800 not being as sharp versus others. I didn't see that at all. And to be honest with you, I just found it to be a fascinating lens. And for the size and the price point, I think they're really good. And I think this is something where they've kind of taken a leap forward over Canon right now, and even Sony in ways that they've said, look, they kind of started off more conservative with their lenses with the Z6 and Z7 launch. You know, they came out with the 1.8s and the f4s, where everybody was coming out with the 1.2s and the 1.4s, the faster lenses, which do get a lot more clicks. But I think Nikon's more conservative approach sort of paid off in the long term, because then they bring out their telephotos. And they're like, okay, now we're playing in their wheelhouse. And this is where Nikon shines. I mean, Canon does too. They do some great telephoto lenses, and so does Sony. But Nikon really shines with these telephoto lenses, especially with the phase Fresnel elements. You know, getting a very compact, small lens that gives you fantastic performance that doesn't kill your neck. You know, okay, 400 2.8 is a different story altogether, but you know, that's a different lens altogether. You know, I had to do some working out for that one, but the 800 is a great lens, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. First thing I noticed. Go ahead, Chuck. Sorry.
I was just going to say, you just recently did the 85 1.2, and
yes.
How did you like that lens?
I love that lens. It's a big honker of a lens, though. That thing is massive, right? I mean, you know, this is not a street photographer's lens. You walk down the street with that thing and they're like, wow, it's like you can see into the future with that thing. The front element's massive. But the optical performance was great. Now, again, I had a pre-production lens, which they did say, I got this from Nikon Singapore. They did say, you can review it, you can show images, but this is pre-production. So that's something that I did take note of in the video as well, is that I have not tried a retail version of the lens yet, but from what I experienced, I was really impressed with the optical performance out of it. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I have been. I think it's a beautiful lens. I know you said you're shooting right now with the 51.2.
Yeah, my 24-70s, my friend's using it, so that's why I'm really close up. And I apologize to your audience. That's like my face massive in the scene here. So sorry guys for that, but yeah, it's usually I do a 24-70 for something like this.
Just one question. What aperture are you shooting at right now? I'm just curious.
I think this is 1.4, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of bokeh.
You can see it working, because one eye is sharp and just falling. That's great, man.
Yeah, I should drop it to f2 or f2.8. I should actually do that, but
no, man.
It's too late now. We're in the live stream.
No, it's a great advertising piece there.
Hey, that's the 50, right? Or this
is the 50.
Okay.
The 50. I love this lens. I mean, it's a big lens for a 50, but God, the optics on this are phenomenal. It's such a good lens.
Hey, you mentioned the street photography, and you played with the Noct. If you think that 85 is a beast, that Noct 58.95, right? I don't know if you've seen my Noct files, but
yeah, it's gorgeous. They're gorgeous. The Noct is amazing. That is that is what we say that is a reference lens for Nikon. I mean, that's kind of them saying, hey, look, this is how good we can make a lens. And then kind of everything's derived from that, like the 51.2, I think the 85.1.2. They're taking all of that from this Noct, but I got to give it to them. The way they presented that lens in the Pelican briefcase, you know, the way that it was presented. I mean, what a way to get a lens, you know, like this is 8,000, which in Leica territory is probably a bargain, but you know, for Nikon, it's expensive, but you know, but you know what I mean? But like the way it comes in the Pelican case, I was like, I love this. I mean, It's massive, but phenomenal lens. Yeah.
Hey, Agnetha, what's up? Agnetha, where are you from? I just want to know. Leave it in the comments. She's a regular here.
Awesome.
Just want to know where she's from. Let's see. Tim Mackin. Hey, Vahagan, Chuck, greetings from the prairie of Central Illinois. The first thing
Awesome.
I noticed when I watched your first, like when I got introduced to you, was first thing I noticed about you was your voice. I was like, man,
thanks.
this guy's a really good voice. So I was like, were you ever in, like, did you ever take any voice training lessons, or this is just your natural kind of?
It's my natural voice, but I did radio for 4 years here. So I did
Okay.
drive time radio, morning radio, and I've also done voiceover work. But that's
'cause
probably
I'm
the radio coming into play.
I'm a very like audio type person because I used to play in a band too. So like I'm a big fan of like audiophile and good sounding stuff and voices, and I can pretty much tell like, well, so. And then your reviews were like, oh, this guy's awesome, man. A very underrated channel. How long you been on YouTube, man?
I think in totality, since probably, I want to say 2016, 2017, but I think my own channel, I think it's only been up for a year.
Your channel, your own.
My own channel for about a year. My own channel for about a year, maybe, but it's never been a consistent, because, doing content for, like, say, Geek Culture, for example, or other channels, this was sort of like a side thing that I would do as and when I had time to put out a video. But I think over the last, few months or so, I thought, let me put a little bit more time into this and really start putting out more content. And I mean, the feedback from the audience has been fantastic, and the response has just been really heartwarming to me, because, I give a lot of respect to content creators that put their own name out there and they actually do it. I mean, it's one thing to be with a channel that is not your own, because you're just a talent per se. But when you put your name out there, I mean, it's a kind of a sink or swim sort of a situation. And it took me a while to gain the courage to actually do it. And funny enough, since I was doing YouTube videos for a while, but to actually make my own channel, it's like, how are people going to respond? And then again, I have to learn editing, because I'm usually just in front of the camera talking. Then I have to learn all the video aspects and the production elements to it. So that was sort of a learning curve for me.
Because I was like, okay, wait a minute. He's awesome. He does great reviews. He has a great presentation. He's talented. Guy's good looking. He has a good voice. Wait a minute, 4,000 subs. And okay, that's the reason. You're new. You're new. Your space.
Yeah, I'm new, but I'm very fortunate. And I mean, it's just a great community, and I mean, we'll see where it goes. And I mean, I have other interests outside of photography, but I realize with YouTube, if you try to put everything on one channel, it doesn't necessarily work. So I may branch out and open up a couple other channels that factor in some of the things that I like as well. Yeah.
I can see that because you're into the acting and then the shows and then the modeling, and then how do you find time? You lived in LA, right?
Yeah.
Huntington Beach for a while.
Huntington Beach for a couple of years in Newport, Costa Mesa area. Yeah.
Oh, nice. What's your take on that area? Because I hang out around there.
Oh man, I mean,
I'm from there.
Oh, were you? Awesome. I loved it. I mean, it was great. Huntington was really cool. It was my first time living in a beach area, because I came from the desert, Las Vegas, right? We got a beach, but it's at Mandalay Bay, or you go to Lake Mead, but then you may see some bodies float up out of the water from, years back in the 70s of the old Vegas. Yeah, they're actually talking about that. I was there recently, and my friends are like, hey man, you notice bodies are floating up now? I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, from the mob days. I'm like, oh, how great is that? Going fishing, and he thought he caught a trout, and all of a sudden it's Uncle Vinny. No, I love the aspect. I love the whole vibe of Huntington Beach and that whole area. That's really cool. The whole Orange County aspect of it. And then it's a very chill way of life, which I love. I love really Newport. Enjoyed.
I love Newport's great. Balboa Island and on that area.
Oh, awesome area.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if I was to go back to California, I wouldn't go back to LA area. I'd probably stay in Orange County. I prefer Orange County a little bit more, but that's just my personal preference.
Yeah. Chuck's from Connecticut.
No, he isn't.
Nice.
He's in Connecticut. He's not from
Connecticut. Where are you from, Chuck?
Kentucky.
Awesome. I've never been. I heard great things about it, though.
Yeah. Wow, man, my face is so red tonight. Why is that? Wow. I got to bump up the lighting here.
There you go. All right.
Hey, I gotta ask. I know you got a bunch of questions Vahagan, but somebody asked, is Bobby Tonelli your real name or is it just a rock star name you chose? I said that.
I don't know if that sounds like a rock star name. Thanks, man. No, Tonelli's Robert Tonelli is my full name, but Bobby's, obviously short for Robert. So yeah, that's
cool.
it.
Bobby
Yeah.
Tonelli, rock and roll. That's a rock.
That sounds like a good, wow. Cool.
You never know what you get in the live stream.
No, man, I love it. I love it. Very cool, man. Thank you.
Hey, Rakesh, question: if you convert, if you convert a Z7 II photo to black and white and like M11 monochrome, which one produces better results? How much is the difference in detail and tone captured? Great question.
Wow. I guess, well, I mean, if I can answer this one, I would say that, because as I said in my review, the end results can look very similar from all the cameras, right? But I think the process with the M11, with that monochrome sensor gives you, with the dynamic range and your latitude in terms of your, how you can play with the image and your ISO performance. There's something very unique about a monochrome sensor that I think a colored sensor just, with the color layers just doesn't give you yet. That's what makes those files really fun to play with, because it's like, have you ever shot with, let's say, a phase 1, like an IQ4, where you got 150 megapixels, but you can just do anything with that image and manipulate it? That's kind of what it's like with a monochrome sensor image. You can just do so much with it. And the end results can look really good. Like, I mean, I produced some beautiful black and white images out of the Z cameras. Beautiful. And they'll all look very similar at the end result, but it's getting to that point where if you underexpose or overexpose, you can actually play a little bit more with the M11 files than you probably could with the Z files at this time. That's my take, but I mean, everyone might have a different opinion.
Do you prefer to add the picture profiling camera with JPEGs, or do you do after? Like, do you post-process in RAW?
Everything after in RAW. I shoot primarily in RAW. I mean, JPEG, of course, there's definitely a place for it if you're doing it for work and you have to like be on, location on a RAW concert, or let's say you're on, sports or something like that. You need to send all your files JPEG all the way. I mean, I think that's why Nikon did a great job with the Z9 is people were like, why didn't they do RAW at 30 frames per second versus RAW only at 20 frames? But then when you look at how professional photographers use a camera, they're not going to be doing 30 frames per second RAW. They don't have the bandwidth, nor they have the time to edit those images. They need to get them out to their editors.
Right.
So JPEG makes more sense versus, in the Nikon colors.
We won't have any common sense here.
I know, but
that takes away most of the arguments, and arguments are what we want.
That's true. That's true. But I mean, that was something that I learned a lot when I was talking through my Z9 when I first got the camera for review. Then I started talking to professional photographers who did this for a living. And I'm like, hey, do you shoot in RAW all the time? They're like, hell no. We got no time to edit in RAW. You think we had time to do a 60 or 100 megabyte image and edit all these images? No way. We got to send out to our editor, get them out for the papers or for press. Yeah. We're JPEG. We need good colors out of camera, and we need those files out ASAP. We shoot JPEG. I was like, oh, okay.
Man, that Z9 out of camera is spectacular, man. I was shooting the 85-1.2 with the Z9 and using one light setup. Man, the colors just pop, man. I love the Z9.
Yeah. I mean, Nikon colors in general are some of the best color science out there. I mean, it's yeah.
Bobby, Lumix or Sigma lens on L mount? Sith asks.
Depends. It depends what lens. I mean, Panasonic makes some fantastic lenses, and they have a partnership with Leica. So a lot of that design is Leica's design. When they have it's an S Pro lens, it's a Leica design. May not be the Leica glass 100%, but there's elements of that. But Sigma, I got to tell you, Sigma does some really interesting lenses. There's a 60 to 600. I hope they make this for the Z mount. I know they're getting into Z mount now, and they've launched with some APS-C lenses, which was a little bit questionable why they launched with APS-C versus full frame. But if they bring that 60 to 600 out for the Z mount, look out. That is a phenomenal lens. And it gives you such a wide variety to play with. I mean,
there are already kind people petitioning Nikon to do that. So, it could happen.
Yeah, I think it will happen. I think it was very odd because and I'm going to be testing those lenses very soon from Sigma, the Z mount lens. And I'm like going, but why APS-C? I mean, the ZFC is great. You know what I mean? And they make some great APS-C cameras, but predominantly go full frame. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an age old argument there. Shoot DX mode on your full frame or go APS-C, but the D500 struck a chord with so many people that that's what they're hoping for now is a mirrorless D500. I think Nikon will respond, but I don't think that's their focus at the moment. They could fool us all, but I think we need to get the lineup filled out first, all the way down to the Z6 III, then look at it. But who knows what Nikon will do.
And actually, you know, nowadays with the high megapixel, you know, if they go like say 60 down the road or whatever the case, even at 45, and you go DX, you still got a lot of range. You know what I mean? And it works beautifully. Yeah.
Hey, the 200 to 600. So maybe. Hey, I forgot to mention, all the links are in the description, guys. Go ahead and visit Bobby's channel if this is the first time you're being introduced to Bobby. His YouTube channel is in the description. So go ahead and give him a subscribe. You know, go over there. You'll love his content. I'm telling you, it's top notch. It's professional. I mean, look at the guy. The way he sounds, the way he presents himself.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Let's talk about how great he is.
When I do this too. So I kind of see like, wow, man, you do top notch content. I mean, it's top and it is.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. That means a lot. Thank you very much from you guys that are photographers, the professional photographers that do this. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I love it. And by the way, Chuck. Also Chuck. Subscribe to Chuck's channel in the description. Hey, Kevin Nordstrom says, okay, he did a 10-hour live stream. Okay, this was
10 hours.
10 hours.
You sure you're up for a live stream with me, man?
Awesome.
He broke
I might need a few more drinks.
he broke a record and 10.5-hour live stream. His thing is, okay, every Wednesday and Saturdays, but his thing is you can come and go as you please. You know, you can join in. Hey, what's up, guys? Blah, blah, blah. And hey, I got to go eat dinner. Or I got to take off. And it's cool, man. It's like a community over there.
Awesome.
You know, it's one of those things. If there are people that are still in, I mean, a pretty good number of people that are still in, then I just feel like, well, let's keep going. So the other night I said, we get down to 30 people watching and that's it. I'm going to go to bed. And all of a sudden it jumped up to like 45 and it just stayed there forever. Anyway, long story short is 10.5 hours later, I got to go to bed. So, but that's what I do. I mean, you know, over on the channel, it's the community's channel. Is really not mine. I'm just kind of the gatekeeper, and we do have a good time though.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and then some of the same guys are here from our live streams. It's a community, so it's cool. Jose says, "Hey, Bobby, Jose from Puerto Rico. Good to see you."
Hey, Jose, how are you? Yeah, Jose's he's coming on a couple of my videos, man. Seems like a really nice guy. Yeah. I love the community, man. The community is just awesome. The photography community, I mean, the love and the passion, and it's just a great community on YouTube.
John, I agree with you. Bobby's the most humble YouTuber on the net. Very generous man.
Oh, very kind. Very, very kind.
So, yeah. We were watching a live stream the other day, and the guy was just so angry on there. Man, chill out, man. But I mean, hey, Chuck has a history of ranting, though. So
yeah, I do.
I say that.
I can't hide that. It's recorded. So.
Oh man, you guys are great, man. We got to do this again. This is so much fun. This is so much fun.
Yeah, so yeah, man, it's crazy. One time it was New Year's Eve, right? New Year's Eve party, and Chuck was on. That live stream went for 7 hours or something like that, and that was a memorable time because a guy came on there and got kicked off by his significant other, and it was a big drama. But he laughs at it. Like, I forget his name, but he laughs at it. Like it was great. I'm sorry I'm mentioning that, but it's hard to forget that moment.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. It's like, it's New Year's Eve. Come on, you know? Oh.
See what you did, Chuck?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, man. So, man, yeah, this community, like you said, you mentioned community. It's so important. Like, I'm a big fan of, like, yeah, I have a small channel, I mean, compared to all the big boys, but like I like propping up smaller channels too. Like if somebody has 500 subs or 300 subs, right? Like I'm like, hey man, check this guy's channel out. Because if I like the channel, if I like you, I'll say, hey, once there was this Claire School of Photography
Mhm.
channel, and I noticed her, and I was like, well, I kind of like her, and she had like 80 subs, and now it's like
Oh,
up to like 900.
oh, good.
Doing good. She's motivated. Like I just like propping up these smaller channels, and I do
Yeah.
that.
No,
I
it's
love
very
it.
kind of you. I mean, because I was watching your channel for for years. Like when you were starting from a lot of your live streams when you did with Jared Polin, and then all those other other ones out there,
Yeah.
and then even your own reviews and your own thoughts on things. And I was always like very interested because you're one of the voices here in the Nikon community. That really talk and are very active about it, and Chuck as well. So when I would see you guys out there, and then you reached out to me, I'm like, wow, man. And I think you commented on one of my videos one time, which was like, oh shit, like. Wow,
Yeah.
thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Because I'm a big, I mean, while I do YouTube, I also watch a lot of content. Primarily, most of what I watch is YouTube anyway. And I love to see what other people are talking about, their approach to things, their thoughts, and see if it correlates with mine. And if it's different, then how is it different? Then am I not seeing something that somebody else is seeing? And then I love the aspect of it all. So to be like on this with you guys, fantastic, man.
Thank
Hey,
you.
I've reached the pinnacle of my YouTube career. I'm happy right now. Anything else is gravy.
Yeah.
I love the community. They're just fantastic people. So I agree with you, Bobby, when you talk about your community. They're just fantastic folks. And I
Agree.
love it.
Agree.
Another underrated Kevin Nordstrom. He does wildlife stuff, and he has a channel. So check him out after the stream.
Definitely.
So yeah, this space is yeah. Sometimes I can get on my rants too, and in the beginning, I kind of like said how I feel about certain people, and I kind of watch what I say these days, but I'm kind of like just an emotional kind of guy sometimes. So it's
I
kind of hard,
understand.
but you know. So hey, let's do this, Chuck.
Yeah. What's up?
Let me put the link.
Oh,
And if
absolutely.
whoever wants to join and talk to Bobby Tonelli live, let's do that. I'm gonna post the link up, and all you need is
Before you get to that, how's your poll doing? So you get that out of the way.
Let's see here. If you asked Santa for a gift, what camera would you choose? And of course, 42% said the Z9. 28% said the M11. 16%.
Wow.
Yeah, 16% said the R3, and then the X2D Hasselblad, 14%.
Isn't it amazing that a monochrome camera is like garnered this much attention? I mean, the M series have been
Really?
out for quite some time for monochromes, but this M11, for some reason, I think it's gotten more eyeballs this time around than previously.
Yeah. Hey Chuck, did I skip over any questions, man? Because I saw a lot of comments, and I was just like,
Well, you know how it goes. We don't have a choice but to skip over some. But yeah, I mean, I think you're doing a great job right now is where you're at.
Robert Silver Photography from the Bay Area. What's up, man? Where's your air horn? He's cool too. Quick question, because I do content, I create content too. When you planning a video, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you wing okay, is there a script? Do you write it? Is there a teleprompter, or do you just like it's all here?
It's no teleprompter. Pretty much all here. I mean, obviously, I'll have notes on my display here, whatever, as and when if I need to, like certain specs or whatever. If I can't remember every certain element that's in a lens or type of glass or whatever it may be, or coating, that stuff I may have to reference to. But for the most part, I really sort of kind of practice what I do. It's kind of like a rehearsal where I really will do a multitude of takes prior to the actual recording of just practicing, getting the feel, getting the flow of it, understanding what I'm going to say, and then I kind of go into it. And I've tried teleprompters and they're great, and I have a teleprompter as well when I want to go spec heavy. But for the most part, it's pretty much here. And I'll be driving in my car and I'll just start like pretend like I'm doing a video and just chatting about it. Like it's just kind of my way of practicing getting it out there, and that's kind of my process. And then from there, I usually shoot my A roll first, then I'll do B roll, because then I'll just sort of cover what I need to cover after the fact. Like, okay, I need to get this shot to cover this. And then when I go through my editing process, I cut out about probably a good 30-40% of what I say, because it's just repetitive. And I just like, okay, I've said that, move on. Said that, move on.
Dude, it's so true, man. It's so true. I was bad at that. I'm still bad at that, by the way. But
I am too.
It's tough, because it's hard to, because naturally we do repeat ourselves when we chat or to talk to our friends and stuff. But on a video, I realized and I started doing this recently over the past few videos, and the response was interesting, is that people liked the shorter content because it was more digestible. And I was getting the points across. And then some people say, look, I like longer videos as well too, which was great. That means that there's interest there. But I realized just get to the point, because when I would look at the YouTube, I look at the analytics, you see how long people stay onto a video. And then you're like, okay, at what point are they dropping off? At what point is it becoming a little bit too long-winded? So then I try to take that portion out of the video, that long-windedness, and just say, okay, what's the most important aspect of this camera, this lens that people are looking for if they're going to buy it or if they're interested in getting it, and try to hit on those and then move on out,
It's funny, Bobby. It depends on what the content is as to whether I would like it to be a long video or a short video. I think in the review group of videos, I prefer them to be not short, but shorter. But if somebody's just talking about a subject or whatever, I don't mind a longer, especially if they're showing me something, like on the wildlife YouTube channels. When they're out, they're shooting. I kind of enjoy that. The longer seems to be relaxing or whatever. But as far as the reviews go, you can either start repeating yourself or you can overdo it. Or you can be like some people and just be a talking head in front of the camera, never showing me what it does. One or two photos, we're out. No, I don't like that.
Yeah, I agree. I like to that's something that I strive to do, is show what the camera can do, real examples in the hand. That's something that I really like to do with the camera. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. When you're doing your videos like that, especially, I know that you go to the zoo there quite often, or the bird park or whatever it is. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's still, an opportunity to see how the camera or the lens shines. But do you have a crew? Do you have somebody that just helps you, or how do you do that?
Usually for videos like that, I have a camera guy that actually follows me, and we just have one person, and that's it. Okay. And we just shoot, and then after that, then the editing process begins. But it's usually, I try to keep it very lean, because when you go to the zoo, if you go in with a big production crew, then they're going to bring their people. Then it's all about, what are you shooting? What are you not? I mean, Singapore, we're quite strict on a lot of these things. We're not as flexible as other countries are. So I try to keep it very lean. And I like that aspect of it too, because I don't want to draw attention to myself, because sometimes I may be shooting a product that's NDA that maybe is not supposed to be seen in public. And if there's a lot of people around, then people are going to be more inclined to say, what are they holding in their hand?
You're right. I understand that 100%. It's just being a one-man crew for even doing a live stream like I do, like Vahaga does. Man, it just gets out of control sometimes. You wish you had an assistant. So my little joke is, Fro has Steven that helps him out, or is his assistant. So I get to a point where I'm overwhelmed, and I'll just turn and yell for Steven. Of course, he's not here.
I mean, on my own channel, I don't have anybody really to help me per se. So usually if I do videos for, let's say, another channel, let's say Tech 360 Prior, and then in Geek Culture, there's a team there. But I mean, once in a while, I will ask a friend if they can help me to shoot some stuff, just to makes it easier for me, so I can have some content. Yeah.
Man, I was watching, was it Nicolas Cage being interviewed on, what was it? 48 Hours? Is that the show?
60 Minutes, right? The
60 minutes. 60 minutes.
Yeah, same. I was watching that.
Sorry, 48 hours is like a crime thing. Okay, 60 minutes. So there was a shot of the setup, just like a quick shot. They went to his house in Vegas. He lives in Vegas. And there was a shot of the setup, so I paused it. And I'm like, oh, dude, look at all these like aperture domes and lightings, and like, and they didn't show the cameras, but man, I love that. I love that setup.
BTS stuff I love too. Yeah,
behind the scene, and you're used to that because you're on shows and stuff, and you see all that. But this was like a top-rated show. They have the best ultimate budget, and it was crazy to see, and the quality they get from interviewing these people. And hey, Bobby Good Apple, Robert Scott, watching from Brooklyn, New York. Fan, hey, I appreciate it, man. Hey, by the way, Bobby, we get a lot of fans, like we get a lot of viewers and stuff all around like the globe, like
fantastic.
our communities all over, so
Yeah, Roy Bigsby's in here right now. Just dropped the last comment. He's down in Australia. John Ishii, you know where he's at, Bobby, but South Africa, UAE. UAE's in the house, represented by Rakesh. And I mean, it's just, it's been phenomenal. I mean, it's blown my mind since I started playing in this arena, how international it can be. It's great.
Yeah, it is.
Vitali Touchlight, Bobby, was it your preferred photography type? What is your preferred photography type? Portraits, wildlife, sports, or other?
That's a good question. I started with street photography was where I started from, really trying to capture just people in the daily lives. I love portrait photography, but as I started getting more into playing with cameras like the Z9 and these telephoto lenses and wildlife, there's such an art form to it. And I did talk about this in one of my videos. It's just the amount of talent and skill level that wildlife and sports photographers have to have in their work, being able to and I try to explain this to the novices out there that never use a longer lens. It's like you're looking basically like this, and everything is really far out, but you have to know how to move the lens. You have to compose. You have to capture the action. You have to know so many things at one time. Your mind is moving so fast, and to capture these pivotal moments, let's say in sports or wildlife, there's such an art form to it. I'm humbled by it, and I actually find it very fun to dive more into that. So I've been playing more into that space a little bit more with sports and wildlife. I mean, obviously in Singapore, we're not a very large sports country per se. I mean, we do get some, soccer or football for the European fans out there. They come out here once in a while, things like that. And wildlife, we are quite small in that sense. But I mean, I am finding myself more inclined to try to venture into that a little bit more. But I mean, I still love portrait photography. I still love capturing people and things like I just went to a Chinese opera that they were doing here, a little small little setup they had at a temple, and capturing the performers, putting on their makeup, and they're on stage, and there's like maybe 5 people in the audience, but they're still putting out their heart and soul. And I love to capture those things as well too. So yeah.
Hey. You sound like me. I can't pick a genre, and I watch a YouTube video, and now that's what I want to go shoot. And that's how much it inspires me to watch some of the people out there that are so good at it. Now I got to go do that. Yeah, I don't do it well, but
yeah.
Hank says,
no, I mean, I have 5 friends that shoot birds here, and they're like handheld, knocking out with a 600 with a teleconverter, and they're getting stunning shots. I'm like, how the hell did you get that? Like how? Yeah. But it's just a talent, and it's like, okay, if I can capture a picture even 30% as good, man, I'd put it on my wall like 5 feet long. I'd be so happy, but
Hank says, let's talk gear. What's in Bobby's bag? But before you answer that, I want to ask you, okay, so you reviewed all the top and high end stuff like the X2D and the M11 and all that stuff that some people I dream of having, but what do you prefer? What's, from those two cameras?
Which one? Sorry, what?
The Hasselblad X2D or the M11?
Okay. The M11, if we talk, M11 monochrome, for example, I love that camera, but again, it's black and white only. So if you do want to be a little bit more versatile with your photography, it's going to be a bit challenging, right? If you want to have some color. I have been using the X2D for a period of time because I'm going to be doing a series of videos on it. So I have really enjoyed that camera. Now, it's a photographer's only camera, unlike the GFX 100S, which has video capabilities to it, it's a great video camera, by the way. The X2D is just a great camera to use. And, the 1 terabyte SSD inside of it just makes it a joy because you don't have to worry about a CF Express card or any SD card for that matter. You just use the camera. The color science from
John says X2D for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm a big fan of the camera system. I mean, the X1D, X1D2, the camera designs are some of the best out there. When you hold that camera and you put it in your hand, it just feels so good in the hand. The weight, the balance, everything is there. The image quality has always been fantastic, and Hasselblad's colors are great. But I think the X1D and X1D2 they weren't there 100% yet. They would get hot. The battery life wasn't so good, very slow. But the X2D is really, I think we're going to see a lot more from Hasselblad in this arena. They're going to push it more.
I think I asked the question wrong. I should have asked, because I framed it wrong.
That's it. Okay.
I should have said, is it worth the extra money? These cameras that are exotic in price,
Okay.
are they worth the money?
You know, it depends on your style of photography, I guess, and it depends what you like. I mean, look, why does people buy a Mercedes versus why they buy a Toyota? They both go down the street. They both have 4 wheels. They both run. Like, why does one buy one over the other? I mean, some of it is some people buy it for the brand name, to be frank with you, and some people want to just say, I got a Hasselblad, I got a Leica. They buy it for that reason. Some people love the history behind the brand. I mean, when you talk Leica, I mean, they are the creators of 35 millimeter. They started it. I mean, so in essence, there's a history there that's very unique. Now, of course, we can go into the from the M series, and then obviously with the Nikon F, that challenged in a big way. I mean, there's to say they almost bankrupt them when the Nikon F came out, with the SLR. But there's a great history, but there's a great history of photography there with a brand like that. So when you buy a camera, you're buying a piece of history. So for a lot of people, that means a lot. The image quality, the Leica lenses are great. I'm not going to say they're not. They're fantastic lenses. They're beautifully made. And Hasselblad as well. I mean, it's the camera that went to the moon. I mean, who can say that? And so there's that element to it. But also I think that yes, you can definitely see a difference in the image quality from the lens design and everything else. And I mean, I'm not the one person to say like, are they worth the money? Because like I said, everyone has a value for various different reasons, and there's no right or wrong to it. Like some people say, why would I spend, I'm putting Singapore dollars, but okay, what's the Z9 in US dollars? Because I'm just thinking Singapore dollars for a moment. What is it?
5,500.
Yeah. Why would someone pay 5,500 for a camera like the Z9? Like, can't the Z7 II or Z6 II do most of that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
what a terrible discussion that turns into. Yeah,
I know, but I'm just putting that out there. You know what I mean? But like,
no, you're right.
But there's that element to it. And there's other people who say, but the Z9 does so many things for me, and what I want to do, fits my needs. So then that value was worth it. So that's how I kind of look at the whole
nobody
process.
values what you want. And I think that's the problem. They want you to want what they want, or to have what they have, or whatever. They want to talk you out of whatever you want. That's a common theme in photography circles,
Yeah.
And I have this saying, I say it all the time. It's not what I need, it's what I want. And
I mean, look, yeah,
I mean, and I'll spend what I want on what I want. I don't need anything really. I mean, we have enough cameras and lenses to do everything we need, but that's not
100%.
why I buy the next camera or the next lens. I want it.
That's true. It's that desire. Yeah. That emotional attachment to whatever it is,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good thing to have, because you're more likely to actually enjoy it.
And I think that's something that kind of going back to Vagan, your question there is, Leica they really tap into the emotion of photography very well with their history and that red dot, and picking up a Leica is picking up a piece of history, and they have done it very well through a number of years. And I think it's kind of transcended from being just a camera brand to being a luxury brand in a lot of aspects, but also being like, when you're holding a Leica, you maybe,
you got to admit, it's a sexy little camera,
it's sexy. It is sexy. And they're well built. They're beautifully made. Yep. When you hold a piece of brass in your hand, you're like, shit, you hold an M3 that was made in the 50s, you hold it today, you're like, damn, it still holds up really well.
Can you pass the Grey Poupon?
Yeah. What's that?
Commercial.
I remember that.
The Rolls Royce.
Yes.
That's funny. So what's in your bag if you're going out for street stuff? I mean, what do you take with you?
Right now it's been the X2D primarily for the most part. I do shoot a lot of film as well. That's a little bit of a fun project for me. So I have the FM3A that I like to take out with me, or the M7, like M7. So I shoot a little bit of that. But primarily right now has been the X2D because I'm testing it as well. But I also like the form factor. I would love to take the Z9 out more, but I think it's quite big to put in the camera bag and actually go out and just shoot for a day with the Z9. That's where I think the Z8 is really going to come into play if this camera exists. That it's going to be a lot more sizable for a lot more people out there.
Well, that's why a lot of people are questioning it, period, saying, why would they build the same camera in a smaller body? But there's so many people that wanted the Z9 that either couldn't afford it or didn't want that larger body. I mean, they were looking for this camera the Z8, if the rumored specs are what they say they are. Although now it seems everybody's getting what they want and they're not happy with it. Mazman talked about that today. You just can't please people.
So
you can't. Yeah.
Are we going 61 or 45 on the Z8? What do you think? If you were to guess.
I think we're probably going to stay 45. I think that's probably I think that's going to probably be more accurate.
Okay, wait. First of all, if you're under NDA for anything, I don't want to get you in trouble. So if you want,
I have not touched the camera, so don't worry about it.
Nice try, B. Nice try.
No.
Great.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. It's like I can't answer that question to be like, oh, so okay. No, I haven't seen it, so I have no idea. I don't even. Yeah, I know what's out there. I know pretty much what you guys know in terms of rumors. Because
so 45, so far. You prefer?
I think that's probably more realistic, to be frank with you. I mean, I would love to see 60, but I think that being that the Z9 is the flagship, and I think primarily how I look at the Z8 is exactly what Chuck said. I think people wanted the Z9, but it was just too big for them. And they wanted something smaller, but they wanted the functionality. And I think Nikon probably listened and probably knew this from the very get-go and said, look, they probably had 2 versions when they're developing it, probably a 60 megapixel and probably a 45. And they said, look, let's just, bring this out to market and let's, capture those people that couldn't get a Z9 because it's still in back order for some places, or they wanted something smaller.
Well, there were so many people that were saying that when the Z9 came out, and that's where, I just felt like, that's the logical step for Nikon. And, we still have the Z7 III to come. And I don't know why people act as if Nikon's going to get rid of that series. So many people believe that the Z7 series is going to go away. That's just crazy thinking, in my opinion.
Oh, no. Do I feel a rant coming, Chuck?
I just think that the Z7 is the perfect platform for a monster megapixel camera. And I think Nikon knows that.
Chuck, I might push back on this a little bit with you. I think
that's great.
With the Z8, I don't think there might be a need for a Z7 anymore, a Z7 II in that regard, because if it is 45 megapixels, which we don't know yet, I mean, these are the rumored specs, but if it is, then it might, of course, it'll be priced a little bit more, but if you're getting a true hybrid camera or close to that, like we're getting with the Z9, which I do see that, based on the specs that I saw recently, that it's going to have this kind of video functionality, then where would the Z7 come into play at that point in time? You know what I mean? Because you almost get to a point.
People that don't want the hybrid period, and it's going to be a hybrid camera, but with less of the video capability, but more photography capability, photo capability, and that super high megapixel camera. I think it doesn't need to be 30 frames per second. No, it does not, or 20 frames per second. And so you could go crazy with the megapixels. And look, I don't want a high megapixel camera either, but I want the people in the Nikon camp to get the cameras that they want. So I'm all for, let's make the Z7 the high megapixel monster. And let them have what they want. And then people get to pick and choose. You have different bodies out there to choose from. I just think it's a win-win situation. Who knows what they're going to do?
True, but then it can get into a Sony situation where you're starting to cannibalize your cameras. You know what I mean?
You can't cannibalize anything. It's a Nikon sale.
Well, yeah, I mean, but in a way, but what happens is that they start developing, let's say they do a Z7 III, for example, and it comes out with a 60 megapixel sensor. Yeah. And then you've got the Z8 and then you got the Z9. Let's say, for example, the Z8 and Z9 are the same, right? Then I don't know. I don't know if there would be a big enough market for that. You know what I mean? Or does Nikon take the approach of going, look, let's just give the best camera, like we won't have as many models, but everything that we have, we give the best of it what it is.
That's because I think we're Nikon way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what Nikon's done, which is interesting, which I found fascinating with the Z9 versus what Canon and Sony and the others have done, because they have a cinema line of cameras and they have to protect those cameras. So they can't give a true hybrid, where Nikon's like, screw it, man. 12-bit 8K RAW and RAW, here you go. ProRes, here you go. Oh, 4K 120, poof, it's in there. Recording limits, we're going to make it so it's pretty much all, you can just record the damn thing. CF Express Type B, there you go. I mean, I'm like looking at the Z9 going, Hell, I've used my friend's Red V Raptor and Komodos. I'm like, why would I? At this point, I mean, obviously, there's a whole thing with Red and Nikon, whatever that is, but that'll get itself sorted out. But I mean, is a true video beast of a camera. So if I want to go shoot video, I got it. And if I want to go photography and just get pretty much the best specs out there, I've got it. So I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of, I think they're in a really interesting space where the other players, they can't do that necessarily just yet because they've got a line of cameras they have to protect.
Yeah, and that's something else I was going to ask you, and I don't want to take it away from Vahagraphy. No. I'm stealing the everything here, but I see that's another thing, and we're going to see as everything begins to show up. Matt Irwin, how you doing, Matt Irwin? He's in here.
Matt Irwin, I love his channel.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say shout out. What's up, Matt Irwin? Matt Irwin in the house.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the days of protecting the flagship are kind of waning. I really do. And I know a lot of people are disagreeing with me, but they disagreed with me about my speculation about what the Z9 would be. But anyway, I don't think that that's become a bit as big an issue, protecting the flagship, because all this technology, there's just way too much of it. And people know that it's simple to bring it into the lineup, all the way down the lineup. Look at what Canon's done. I mean, they've basically done that. So
Sony too. They basically almost killed the A7S III with the recent release.
Yeah,
I was like, what the heck?
That's my point, and I think that's where we're going with this. So you get to buy the model that fits you best, and is a flagship plus a 3-camera full frame camera lineup too much? I don't know. Only Nikon knows whether that would be too much or not. So I say 3. I forget the Z5. I shouldn't do that.
Hey, by the way, Jason Michaels, Bobby Tonelli has lived in Huntington Beach. I know you're from Huntington Beach, so you'd appreciate that. He's
nice.
So it's good to see Matt here. Oh, Ron Pollard's here. He's done some work for Google, right? He just had a contract with Google, I think. Ron
awesome.
Pollard. Well-respected Nikon shooters. And by the way, what are some of the channels you watch?
Oh YouTube. Man, I mean, I think I watch probably the channels, some of the bigger ones as well. I watch Matt Irwin's channel. Great insight on the Nikon community. I love his thing we did with the M11 with his friend. I think it was the Leica store. That was kind of cool as well. I thought that was really interesting. Nice video for that. And I watched, Tony and Chelsea Northrup, Manny Ortiz. I watch, obviously DP Review, which will now go to Petapixel. Those guys. What other channels do I watch? I watch them all. I pretty much watch majority of the photography channels, out there. I mean,
that's cool.
Just to get an idea of what people are thinking out there and what their vibe on stuff. And I love just hearing different opinions,
Hey guys, the link is in the chat. If you guys want to join and say hi to Bobby, just click it. You could even use your phone. Just make sure your YouTube volume is down so we don't hear any echo. Or if you have a means to stream, like Chuck always says, you can just click and you're on. So here it is, guys. We have a bunch of people that have means to stream here. By the way, you're from Singapore, and I usually have my show on 11 a.m.
Yes,
but I had to change it, and it was a pleasure for me to change it because I really wanted to talk to you. And
hey, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it because I know that when I tried it was like maybe about 2 or 3 a.m. for me or something like that. It might have been a bit, or it was very late. I was like, I wanted to have enough energy to chat with you and be online for a couple hours, and so thank you so much for that. It really means a lot. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Hey V, I gotta let the cat. Just hang on.
Yeah.
I got to let the cat down in the basement, fill my coffee cup, and of course, me. I got to.
Awesome.
I'll be right back. Bobby, don't go away, man.
I'm right here. I'm here, Chuck. I'm right here.
All right. Great.
So, yeah, man, it's just, when I started this thing, I really like to just talk to other people. And, I have one of my biggest influences in this space, not photography, but like podcast space. Is thing. Well, I like Howard Stern. I like the way he, I've always liked him.
Same, likewise.
And of course, the biggest podcast ever is
Yeah.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the way he sits down and just, hey, 3 hours, boom, just talking, you know.
It's fascinating. Love it. I love it. I mean, as I mentioned, this again, to all those who are just joining, I think this is going to be the future of where YouTube is going. I think, and YouTube knows it as well. It's podcasting, video podcasts, these kind of conversations. This is what people really enjoy. And, then you can just, with YouTube Premium, just turn off your screen and just let it stream in the background and just, sit back, relax, and have a good conversation or just watch,
Yeah.
watch them.
Ronald Pollard says, Bobby, how do you feel Nikon is doing with the Z system compared to other brands?
I think they were trying to find their way, but when the Z9 hit, I had to applaud Nikon on their marketing, how they pushed it forward, how they got the community involved, how they put out a lot of videos, how there was a lot of just support, and I think it made everybody stand up and take notice, going, "Wow, wait a second here! Not only is it a fantastic camera, but they are really they've got something really good with their direction, their focus on getting it out there." And I have to say, I think where people were discounting Nikon, a few years back, because obviously Sony and Canon and their marketing prowess and how they were pushing it out there to a lot of YouTubers and influencers and et cetera, I think Nikon is coming back saying, "Hey, wait a second, we're in this, and we're going to show you what we can do now with a very powerful hybrid system, with, you could literally say, no compromises. You could say almost pretty much a global shutter, 30 frames per second, 40, 20 frames per second raw, 8K and raw 12. I mean, you can just put the whole specs out there and say, here we go, guys. Here's our camera system. Now let's play." And I think with our lens lineup coming out now, I'm still waiting for a good 35. They got the 35 1.8, but I'm waiting for a very good, like a 1.2 or 1.4 to come out to play, which I'm sure will come out. But they're filling out their lens lineup well, and they're working with third-party developers, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Canon has been I feel a bit too protective of the RF mount, and as a result, it's hurt them publicly in terms of the publicity aspect. Sony has been a good player, but I think Sony, the A7R5 is a game-changing camera for a lot of people, even though it's the same design and it can be very repetitive to a lot of people. But if you use the camera, that autofocus AI chips that they have in there is just on a whole different level. But I'm waiting for them to take the next step and really kind of push it. I think we'll probably see that with an A12 or something else, where we're going to see maybe a different body design. I hope so, or in different elements. But Sony, I feel like it's really matured in the marketplace, but Nikon now has they're in a very unique position where, with the Z8 and now with the Z9 and whatever else they come out with in the next couple of years, to really like take a big market share back that they may have lost to Sony and those users, because they wanted, different lenses and so forth,
Yeah, no, you make a good point. Enzo, it should be the other way around, bro. Look at his comment. I bought the GFX 100 because of Bobby and his review.
Thank you, man.
I just purchased the Z9, and I blame Vahagraphy for draining my bank account. Hey, isn't the GFX much more expensive? It's like 10,000.
Actually, I think they're about the same price. No, the GFX is about 5,000 USD, if I'm not mistaken. So they're around the same price.
Oh,
but you know what? They're great. They're both. I mean, I've used both for various different reasons. For product photography, for portraiture, I've used the GFX system, and I love it. It's a great system. And I've used it. Actually, some of my first videos on my channel were shot with the GFX 100S for video only. I love that camera. It's a great camera for the price point and the image quality. It's very, very hard to beat. And I find that they do complement each other in a lot of ways.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I never used the GFX 100. I used my friend's 50R, which was a while back. It was pretty, wow, the detail on those shots. I love it. Fuji's kicking some butt.
They are. They really are. They're doing some great things. And I mean, they've got more lenses coming out for that system. I mean, as they've showed up in their lens roadmap. And I think they're trying to make a medium format a full frame camera in terms of its performance. Whereas Hasselblad's kind of taking a different approach with the X2D, which is equally as enticing as it's going photographers only, image quality. That's all they care about, and good performance, but image quality first and foremost. And so I think to different users, they're going to find a different appeal.
Yeah. Hank says, Bobby's a baseball player. Do you still play sometimes?
No, man. I mean, in Singapore, we have like Sunday leagues, but no, man, I kind of let that dream slide after the rotator cuff, man. I just said, that's it. I could never pitch as well as I used to. And
I played the drums for a band a while ago. I feel the same way. I miss it. Obviously I was younger then, and I had the chops, but now, but there's so much talent out there now, man. You see these guys on TikTok, what they're doing with like one hand.
It's
I'm like
crazy.
one limb. I'm like, man, these guys are crazy. The generation is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. Wow. Well, you're back, Chuck.
Yeah.
What's up, Chuck?
Yeah, I have fresh coffee, so let's go. We're good for another 8 or 9 hours.
Let's do it.
So I love this platform, man. I love this thing. Will you be do you live stream it sometimes on your channel?
I've never live streamed yet, but you're kind of influencing me to try it once. I've always been a little bit nervous to do so. I've got the setup to do it, but I've never tried it. But seeing you guys do this, I'm thinking maybe I should give it a shot. Maybe I should just try doing a review live stream or something like that, or just having a chat. It'd be fun.
Yeah, man. Just don't worry about being too formal. I think that's the key to it is, get out of the formal thinking and just enjoy the conversation.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that very soon with that. Okay.
ATR Bear, love the D3X video and comparisons. Thanks, man. I
awesome.
I bought a D3X a while ago, and I bought it for like $500, and I put it up against the Z9, right, just for fun. I just wanted to see the raw files straight to the camera, no editing, what they both look like with the same lens, and the results, man. I mean, that D3X has a filmic type file. I mean, it's a great looking camera. I mean, back in the day in 2008, it was $8,000, and now it's like I bought it for $500-600, and then ATR Bear just bought one, and I think he loves his too.
Well, what's interesting about these older cameras? They're making a resurgence because what I've noticed, because I delve a lot into the film era and that kind of the analog vibe a bit, and what's happened is obviously thanks to Kodak keep raising their prices by astronomical amounts. They're kind of slowly killing the film photography community, which is sad. But what's happening is the younger generation now is getting into CCD sensors and older digital cameras. So, it's good of you to pick up that D3X. That might be something I need to pick up as well, because I foresee these cameras getting a resurgence and jumping up in price very soon, because the newer generation that was into film, but that's too expensive for them, will get into a digital camera that has a film look and pick it up for a few $100. And, there you have it. So
the D200 has a CCD sensor.
So that might be good. Yeah. And the old CMOS sensors like the D3Xs, I mean, I've seen them here in Singapore about $500-600 as well. And I thought, should I pick one of these up? I mean, they're still relatively well kept and good condition. And I'm thinking,
yeah,
food for thought.
Just be careful the shutter count, obviously, but all that. Because they won't repair it. I mean, Nikon will touch it. They don't have the parts for it anymore. I think if you need repair. So, Chuck.
Yes, sir.
So I guess everyone's shy today.
Yeah, come on, people. Somebody jump in here. Here's your chance again. So I do this all the time on my stream, Bobby. I invite people. Anybody can join. I mean, where else can you go on YouTube and actually be invited into the chat live?
True. There's a link, guys. There's the link. And ask Bobby anything. Man, you know what? You have such a broad career, man. You've done a lot, man. Like in front of the camera, behind the camera, it's crazy.
Well, thanks, man. I'm very fortunate that my day job gives me a lot of. I've been able to do a lot of things, like hosting events and being acting on television and film and hosting television shows. I am very, very fortunate. I was doing corporate sales in America for about 12 years. It was my day job. As I was trying to be an actor. I wasn't waiting tables and stuff like that, but I had sales jobs and stuff like that. And to be able to do this for a living, I kind of, I pinch myself every day to say, hey, I'm very, very lucky. And I never take it for granted. And I mean, I probably can make a lot more money doing other things. And I could buy more film gear and more camera gear. But I'm very content. I'm very happy. And that's the best thing in life, is just to be grateful for what we have,
Yeah. I heard you mention something on another interview where you were on. Somebody asked you about you being in LA and trying to make it here as an actor.
Yeah.
And you said that it was just cutthroat here, and it was just like they wanted people with experience with screenplay and all that.
Sure.
I found it very interesting that you see
Yeah.
the insights and you live that life. It's such a life
Yeah.
that we always just fantasize about, but you kind of lived it.
Yeah, it was interesting because I would go in LA and they'd say, hey, you're a nice looking guy, you sound great, you've got talent, but you don't have any screen credits. So a lot of the agencies won't pick you up, they won't give you a chance. And so you're just like, well, yeah, that's why I'm seeing you, is to hopefully get the credits. So then I realized, I mean, it's a catch-22, you're like, yeah. So then I realized, like, all right, look, the only way for that to happen is either do something myself. And then I had some opportunities in Asia that kind of brought me out here. And so that's what brought me to sort of was my goal, is to say, look, I'm going to leave my corporate job and all that stuff I was doing in America, as well as trying to be an actor there. And let me try Asia, because I'm really a minority in my field. I mean, there are in acting and hosting here. And well, I'm in Singapore, which is a smaller country, but I mean, we're kind of a hub for Southeast Asia. I'm probably one of a handful of white guys doing it. You know what I mean? So I'm a true minority, and it taught me a lot. It humbled me a lot that I really just got to put my foot down and got to work hard. The American thought process doesn't necessarily work out here. So I have to change my approach to things, which was a very, very valuable lesson. And you just gotta be the hardest worker in the room, and you got to prove yourself by the hard work. And that's how I got my opportunities. And I'm very fortunate. Every job I get, I'm giddy as hell. Like, yes, I got another job. Yes, I get to do this.
You're a hustler. You're a hustler, man. You're everywhere.
But I try, but that's how I was brought up. I mean, my family were, not my parents, my grandparents, they're Italian. They came over on the boat, they were immigrants, and they were like, hey, you got to work hard for anything you get. And that's been my mindset ever since.
Let's welcome Jose. Jose, how are you?
Hey, Jose, nice to put a face to the comments. How are you?
Oh, we can't hear you.
Jose, we can't hear you, buddy.
Go to the settings, your audio settings.
Hello, folks. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yes, sir.
Hey, Jose.
I'm finally here, man. I get to speak to Bobby.
Oh, man. It's an honor, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for the support, man. I read your comments all the time. I reply, man. Thank you.
I'm new to this, so.
Where are you calling from, Jose? Where were you from again? New York? Oh.
Uh-oh.
Device not connected. I guess you disconnected it. you probably
don't touch this button.
It says device not connected. Okay. All right, wait.
Oh, it's funny. I got a comment here. Bobby could be the next Henry Golding. Your time will come. As a matter of fact, Henry's a good friend of mine, and he's a big photography fan. So, we were friends in Singapore when he's here. So, big photography fan.
Puerto Rico.
Hi, Jose. Can you?
Hey, Jose.
I've never done this, so.
Don't touch anything. Go ahead and talk to Bobby.
Where are you calling from? Oh, you probably can't hear me.
Hey, Jose, where are you calling from?
Yeah.
There's a voice. I keep hearing a voice.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Hey, Jose.
Well, try using your phone.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Okay. Oh, nice. Nice.
Puerto Rico.
Gotta love live.
Yes, you do.
And that's just part of it.
Yeah, it is. It is. That this is the great aspect of it, Yeah, we can hear you, Jose. Can you hear us?
Okay. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you very much. And thanks for coming on this chat, and really appreciate the support, man. Really do. Thank you.
Hold on a second.
Yeah. No, I love getting the audience involved, man. This is
great.
Me and Chuck were on a live stream. I don't know what happened to him. I guess he left, but we were in a live stream and we couldn't really get our questions answered, and it was hard because they were filtering the questions, and we couldn't see each other's questions. Like
Uh-huh.
you would send a question and
Mhm.
hope that somebody would reach it over there and put it
Okay.
and answer it. So we're like, no, man, we're gonna get the audience involved here. Yeah, this is what it's all about, you know.
No, definitely. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. It's like talk radio, man. It's like old school talk radio, but like, in
Yep.
2023.
Bobby, who shoots your Instagram photos that you're in?
Uh I have a couple people that help me out with that. A friend of mine, Zachy, he does a lot of my videos that I'll do on Instagram. Like we do little, some of the things that I do are paid content on Instagram. He'll shoot a lot of those videos for me. And the photography, I have a friend of mine, Ivan Joshua Lowe, who is a Fujifilm ambassador here in Singapore. And he's, we'll go out for shoots and we'll get to test out gear and he'll take some photos of me. Who else? I mean, yeah, sometimes it's my fiance who helps me out as well. She takes some photos. She's pretty good at it. So it just depends,
Nice.
as and when. Yeah.
Who's some of your favorite photographers in the world, like legends, living or dead?
Oh man. I mean, Cartier-Bresson, of course, I absolutely love his work. God, I mean, go into, Herb Ritz. I love what Herb Ritz would do. A lot of with his, in the fashion photography realm with lighting and everything else like that. Um, I mean, God, Ansel Adams. I mean, we can go on and on to some of the greats. For me, I also just, how do I say this? I mean, you can look at the greats and they say, okay, I can take from them, and they were in a different era. But today's photographers, with the tools that they have and the way they see the world, is really fascinating. As a matter of fact, I was helping a friend of mine, Ivan Joshua Lowe. As I mentioned, he was a Fujifilm ambassador, but he also runs this Instagram page called Fuji Fanboys. And he has this photo competition that it's regional now, and he's been doing it for a number of years. And he would get these, all these entries from all over the world, and from Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam. And you're seeing the photography from these kids and from these people with old ass cameras you think like, can people even shoot with these things? And it's gorgeous. And it makes you go, oh man, the work that's out there that we don't see as a whole, because maybe their Instagrams are not popular, or maybe they've got maybe a couple hundred followers or maybe 50 followers, but the work that they put out there. I mean, and it's kind of deviating from the question a bit, because in terms of favorite photographers, but there's just so much good work out there, and I think it's, we have the more popular channels out there and the more popular Instagram accounts, but sometimes the really good photography comes from the smaller ones,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of fans out there I like to see. Yeah.
Any good wedding photographers that are on your list?
I don't honestly to follow a lot of wedding photography. I mean, I need to get married myself. I've been on a very long engagement, so that one.
Jerry Guiones, Cliff Montner, Vanessa
I don't.
Joy.
Yeah, Vanessa Joy. I see her work and stuff. It's very good, very informative, very good stuff. I mean, what's his name? He's from China. He's one of the biggest wedding photographers.
Yeah.
Sale. You know what I'm talking about, right?
He's won a bunch of awards.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Sales Chong, is it Sales Chong? I'm not mistaken. Let me look up his name. Yeah. He was a Hasselblad ambassador. I think now he's a Phase 1 ambassador. Sales Chong. His photography is insane. I mean, obviously he does some post-production work, but his lighting is so on point that he's done seminars in Asia where people thought all this is done in Photoshop, and he's like, no, I do all this in lighting. His work, I don't even know what he charges for a wedding photography shoot. I think it's probably in 6 figures, but it is mind blowing.
He's well known.
Gorgeous work. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah.
Hey Ron, you can always rewatch that part and get that list that he said. Hey Ron, I haven't heard from you in a while, man. Click the link and join. I'd love to hear your take. Ron is fun to talk to, man.
Awesome.
He's an awesome photographer. There's a link, man, if you're not busy. He great photographers, man. Yeah, so we started this, man. I was like, I want to talk to people, pick their brains up, and it's cool, man. And
yeah, it is.
I appreciate you coming on and accepting the invitation,
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for the invite. Again, I really appreciate it. I mean,
and you know
really,
what?
really
These
awesome.
things live on, you get 50 or 60 or 40 people watching live, but then you get rewatched. It lives on. You can go back and watch the the other live streams that we've had on, and people really like it and they watch it, and it makes for a really good drive too. You know, like if you're driving somewhere, you know.
Oh yeah.
Chuck doesn't listen to music when he drives, so
No, I'm a talk radio person, and this fits, you know, right into it. Listening to Vahagen's podcasts and things like that, and a lot of people they tell Vahagen too, but they'll tell me that they're listening at work or they're just listening as they're doing other things, and why not? There really isn't anything to see on the screen. I mean, well, except for you, Bobby. I mean, come on.
No. I'm like you, Chuck. I actually listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube, like this kind of talks segments. You know what I mean? Like even the Leica community, I think Red Dot Forum, when they did they were doing a lot of live streams during COVID, you know, talking about the whole Leica setup from different lenses and the history and different bodies. I thought that was fantastic. And just like such a great wealth of knowledge that helps people, keeps people, you know, inspired, not only with photography, but also learning more about the brand, which I thought was great. You know, Hey, Ronald, how are you?
Hey guys, how are you? Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yeah, man. Yeah.
First of all, I want to say hello. I haven't spoken to you in a while.
It's been a minute, V. It's been a minute.
How you doing?
I've been swamped, man. I had 8 shoots in 10 days over the last week or so.
Yeah.
So I've been swamped, man. I mean, almost came to California for one, but I've been in Michigan and I got to go to Nashville this week again. And I just been
Were you here at the NAMM show?
Grinding.
Did you do the NAMM show this year?
I did not, because I'm going to see my son in Valle del Par, Colombia. My son is in South America. So my wife and I had to aggregate our funds, Bobby and Chuck, to make sure we can go take care of our son.
There you go.
Family's always most important.
Yeah, this was the first time in 6 years I haven't been to NAMM. Bobby, do you know about NAMM?
Yeah. In Vegas, you mean?
No, not WPPI, NAMM, the National Association of Music Merchants.
No, I don't. No, I'm sorry. I don't know about that. No.
They gather about 125 to 130,000 people per year.
Whoa.
In Anaheim, California. It's like the Super Bowl of music equipment, fog machines, lighting,
and rock and roll.
Yeah, and rock and roll. And everybody and their mama in the world of music is there, from the Grammys to the Super Bowl to the NBA All-Star Game, everybody. And so
awesome.
Those guys know I've shot that show for a few years, and but I couldn't. This is my first time in 6 years, and you know, not this year. That's all.
I understand.
Yeah. It's good seeing you, man. Good meeting you, Bobby. Good meeting you.
Yeah, you too, Ron. You too. You too as well. You too as well.
Oh yeah. And Chuck, 10 hours? Really, Chuck?
Hey, I was ready to go to bed after about 5, but they wouldn't let me.
We need to call you Robo Chuck, man. Robo Chuck, man.
Yeah.
Robo Chuck, man. That's amazing. Day. That's amazing. And V, it's been a minute, man.
Yeah, it has, man. It has. I missed you, man.
Oh, thank you, man. It's good to be missed, brother. Just been working, man. Just been really grinding, fellas, and got to cook while the kitchen's hot.
Right.
Yeah.
In this world, you got to cook while it's hot.
Hey,
Bobby,
Ron.
thank you. Thank you for answering my question, Bobby. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Hey, Ron.
No worries.
You know, you photograph a lot of people in the business, right? So, you know, talking to Bobby, he is in the business. Like, he's the one that's, you know, in shows, in these reality shows and all that.
Okay.
It's so cool, man. Like, it's good to be in, like, just to get a little perspective of show business a little bit, you know.
Bobby, you're an actor? You're an actor, Bobby?
Yeah. So I'm an actor, host, all that. Because here in Asia, we got to kind of do a multitude of things, where in America, I think you just can just focus on one thing as an actor, as a TV host or a radio. But here, I do a variety of things. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. I didn't mean to cut you off, V. Go ahead on.
No. I was just saying, like, it's just great, like, to get inside of the business.
Yeah.
I live in Hollywood. I'm not in Hollywood, but they Southern California Hollywood. So
yeah. Like all of New York, like New York is just all of Manhattan for some reason, or Brooklyn. Yeah. When there's a whole lot more to New York. Am I right, Chick? There's a whole lot more to New York than just Manhattan.
Something I learned when I moved up here. My wife's a New Yorker, and for us down south, when you say New York, it means the city, and that's the only part of New York that counts.
Yeah. Bobby,
Yeah.
this. Do you believe that we're going to have a Z8 soon?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I
Okay.
think that blurry
Okay.
spec sheet was kind of real.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I think the Z8 is. I think it's coming. I think we're going to see it very soon. I think these leaks now. These are timed leaks, and I think that we'll probably see this in the next few weeks. Is my guess. Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. All of us who work in this industry, I love you too and miss you too, John Ishii. We all who are connected deeply to Nikon get fringe statements and innuendos, and we get all kinds of stuff, that's going on. And that's why, like you said, this is not coincidental stuff that's happening at this point.
No,
This is
not
not
at all.
coincidental. This is not just happenstance stuff that's happening. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Something's about to drop. Would you be surprised if it's two bodies?
Yeah, I've been seeing the Z8X or something and
Mhm,
Z8.
mhm,
I don't think that's the case.
mhm.
I really think it's just going to be one camera,
Okay.
and I think it's just going to be one good camera.
Mhm,
And because I think for them to release two cameras would be
mhm,
no. It doesn't seem like Nikon's kind of thing. That's more like a
mhm,
Panasonic thing with the
mhm,
S5 II and the S5 IIX, which we
mhm,
still haven't seen the S5 IIX out for some reason
mhm,
yet.
mhm,
But yeah, that Nikon's going to come out with one camera, I believe. That's my thought process on that.
Let me say this. You did a review of the 400 4.5. That was just,
Yeah,
I thought it was well done. You and Matt Irwin and
thank you.
V has done his, and Raymond Parker.
Mm.
I don't understand what it is that Nikon is doing in these lenses,
Mm.
but they're putting some kind of magic pixie dust or something that's just blowing away all the F mount stuff. Um, and this is coming from a guy who owned the 200 F2 for years, and Vahagen thought I was going to miss that
That's a grail
lens.
lens for a lot of people. That's a grail lens for many people out there.
I had it for 13 and a half, 14 years. So I had the version
Wow.
2. And when I saw what I could get out that 400 4.5
Mm.
at the PGA Tour, Bobby, I didn't know what to say. I mean, I talked to my Nikon reps and I talked to a couple other folk in Nikon. I said, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what you all are doing, but whatever it is super special.
Hey,
Whatever it
did
is.
you get 4Gs for it at least? You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Close
All right,
enough. Close enough. Yeah. Close enough that like, hey, Chuck, I could talk to my pimp.
Did you get you in on any of it?
Oh man, yeah, exactly. Chuck, I had to be able to show that I'm working hard.
Hey, I'm thinking about selling mine too, man.
I had to. The weight, and I'm not as young as I used to be. And like I said, I got 13 and a half years out of it. I was good, and mine was almost in mint brand new condition. So, and I love that lens. I shot a lot of weddings and engagements with that lens, that 200 VR2 F2. I did lots.
Hey, someone tried to ask Matt Irwin, like, how's that Z8? Did you catch that in the comments? And hey Matt, if you're still here, man, you're welcome to join in and say hello.
Matt ain't gonna say a word. Matt ain't gonna ruin his
relationship. He's not gonna say anything. But
No,
if he's here, he can...
signed his life away 5 times over, I'm sure.
Yes.
No, but the 404.5, like you said, is just a phenomenal lens. And I think when I was talking to Nikon Singapore about this, even their engineer, they were talking about that the way that they engineered the lens, the way that they designed it. But Nikon's always made really good lenses. I just think with the Z mount, obviously it's a larger mount, so they can actually play a lot more with the glass, which makes it a lot more interesting for them. But I think they were just very conservative when they first launched the Z6 and Z7 with the lenses they came out with, and they were all good lenses. They were fantastic. The 1.8s are great lenses, but now people are really opening their eyes up thanks to the Z9. I think a lot in a lot of ways, they're really seeing like new people come into play. Like, whoa, wait a second. They really can make some small, like the 500 5.6. The phase frozen element lenses are just phenomenal. And then you get the 400 4.5, which is just, I mean, it's like this for 400. And it's sharp and it's great fall off and it's beautiful. And it's like, oh man, what a
And
lens.
now we're talking about a 600 for now.
Yeah.
Chuck, you're right. You're right. I look forward to putting the 400 4.5 through its paces. This summer, I'll be launching a workshop called Captivate Kenya. We'll be doing photography workshops on Safari. And I cannot wait. Because I used to go to Kenya a lot when I did a lot of ministry, a lot of humanitarian work, as Chuck and Vahagraphy know. I used to go. I've been there at least 27 times, 28 times, man. I've traveled to that part of the world a lot. And so I cannot, but I never went with the Z mount. Everything was always with the F mount. The D5 was the last one I went with, and the 300 2.8 VR2 lenses and the teleconverters. But now with the Z mount, I am so pumped, man. I'm so pumped. In August, we'll be leaving in August, August 31st. We'll be going, and I can't wait.
Hey, Rod, do you put your images on Instagram, or where do you put your images up on?
Yeah, I'm all over Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
Ronald Pollard. Okay, the guys have been trying to get me to get into the YouTube space.
Man.
They've been trying to get me, and I just say, pray for me, fellas. It's just one more thing to do that it's just Chuck. It's just one more thing.
I know.
With when you're running a business, with all the stuff that we got to do for this business, man. It's like I need Chat GPT assistance.
I need to.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Bobby, how do you feel about Panasonic stuff? How do you feel about their stuff, man?
Ooh, man. Here's the thing. Panasonic makes. I mean, I have the S1R and S1H with me here back there, and they make great cameras, and the lenses are phenomenal, right? They're really good.
Really? Okay.
But I tell you, the S Pro lenses, like their 70 to 200, is one of the best. It's right up there with Nikon Z 7200 in terms of performance, but it's a heavy lens. Their 51.4, their 24 to 70 are fantastic. It's always been that contrast-based auto-focusing system that's held them back. I mean, phasing tech, we're seeing with the S5 II. If they bring that into an updated S1 or S2 or whatever they're going to call it, you're going to see another camera brand come into the forefront. And now they've got partnered with Leica with the whole L2 partnership. So that's even to take it to another level. I think it's going to be very, very interesting because that camera was, prior to the Z9, closest to a full featured hybrid camera system that we were getting on the market. I mean, the updates they were giving to the S1R and S1, I mean, going from basically 4K to 5.9K and video, and then so many updates. I mean, they were basically really powerful updates. And I think it's a very formidable system. And Panasonic has been in the game for a long time when it comes to cameras.
Hey, they made camcorders back in the day. They made great camcorders.
Broadcast is their one of their
I had an AG455 in the 90s. It was that VHS gray camera. I had a Panasonic mixer too with 4 channels, analog mixer. Really cool stuff. But I want to ask you a question, Bobby. When do you think we really hear something from Nikon directly about the Z8? If you were to guess, when do you think?
I think we're going to start seeing something probably this week.
Really?
I think so. I think with the way that these leaks are coming out, and now that they're getting a lot, like there was a channel, Ordinary Filmmaker, or I think what I'm saying,
Simon,
he's popping some, Simon, he's popping that out. I think that in Nikon Rumors, we're going to see something maybe this week starting to come out. I think so, because I think it's coming soon, man. It's coming soon.
That's why I'm glad. That's why I'm glad that Vahagan invited me in here tonight to keep me awake, because I'm going to be ready at midnight. I'm waiting till midnight.
I'm sorry, Chuck. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Bobby.
Yeah.
Is it just me? But what is it in your point of view, from your worldview? What is it about Nikon that sets the world on edge when it comes to photography? What is it about the Nikon brand?
The history. The history.
More than Sony and more than Canon and more than Fuji and more than.
Look, let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be real.
And I'm asking for a real reason.
Yeah,
I want to hear
100%.
your answer, but keep going. Mm-hmm.
I think the history of Nikon, I mean, there has been, look, we go around to the Nikon F, which upset the whole, camera industry. You know what I mean? Then you go all the way up to the F series. I mean, obviously when the F5 came out, that's when Canon came out with their new, their new 1D, their 1D, but the EOS 1, whatever it was. I mean, that changed a lot. That's when the competition with Canon and Nikon really came into play. Prior to that, the E1, the F1, they were F1N. They were like, it was always Nikon, Nikon, no matter what. And then, when Canon came in with the autofocusing and all that stuff, then it was like a challenge. But I think there's always been a huge fan base for Nikon out there. It's always been the creme de la creme for the Japanese cameras. You know what I mean? It's always had that je ne sais quoi, that history. And I think now with
I like that word.
you get into this now, the Z mount. As I mentioned earlier, they start off very conservative, and they were great cameras, great colors out of them. But people expected more from Nikon because of what they did with the F mount cameras. And the D850 and the D5s and the D, and all that stuff. And now with the Z9, people stood up and take notice because what other full frame mirrorless camera system gives you 12-bit raw video with pretty much unlimited recording, 4K 120, ProRes, on top of 30 frames per second JPEG, 20 frames per second RAW, with beautiful files, CF Express for 2 card slots with 0 mechanical shutter, and you're having no banding issues. You tell me who's making a camera like that.
I'll
wait a little bit.
and I ask you because you get sent cameras from all the brands.
Yes.
You get to test all the brands, right?
Yes.
And it's amazing to watch. Now, and I didn't know this, Chuck, V, and Tony. I had no clue until I was in a certain meeting about 2 weeks ago. I didn't realize how many thousands and thousands and thousands of Nikon users there are with mirrorless and DSLR. I did not realize that there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who are still waiting. So when Chuck rants about that Z8, it's going to blow the world apart because I didn't realize how much bigger, Tony, the Nikon brand is in terms of DSLR and mirrorless. Because if you just think it's mirrorless, it's about 4 times more people who use DSLR than mirrorless.
Sure.
In the Nikon world. I didn't realize that it was that many. So it blows Sony's numbers away in terms of how many people are shooting with Nikon as the brand,
right? Over
Sony as the brand. I didn't realize that until about 3 weeks ago in a meeting I was in.
And I think this is where I think this is where, if I may jump in on this, don't want to interrupt, but this is where I may jump in on this, is that where I feel like the marketing of Nikon, I think they finally came full circle with the Z9, but prior to that, they were still trying to find how to get into this mirrorless world. Because look, the dominant player when it comes to marketing is Sony, right? They have just the KOLs, the influencers, the YouTubers. I mean, they are just pumping gear out there to get them to use their
the
products.
PlayStations, the TVs,
all that. I mean, they're brilliant marketing geniuses, and you got to give them credit for what they did, because they took a system and with their alpha system, where in the very beginning had a lot of hiccups, but they got the camera in people's hands. Where
just
Nikon
so you know,
and Canon,
Bobby,
yeah.
Just so you know, that's been my rants about Nikon, is their marketing and communication with the consumers.
Yeah. But now it's changing.
It is.
We're hoping that it will change.
Let's welcome Wayne. What's up, Wayne?
Hey, Wayne, how are you?
I'm doing okay. You guys are like champions. I'm hanging out with you guys. Amateur hobbyists, but I love interacting with you guys. So it's been great.
Where are you at tonight, Wayne?
Chiang Mai.
Chiang Mai.
And, in a couple of weeks we head over to Mongolia.
Nice.
I didn't mean to cut Bobby off. I mean, Bobby, were you finished with your point?
Yeah.
No, all good. No, I just think that I was just talking about, as Chuck was saying, the marketing aspect of it. I think they're finally getting it. And and also I think where the younger generation, and when you look at YouTube channels, right, predominantly it's Sony, Canon, and I mean, now we're getting Fujifilm because thanks to TikTok, now the resurgence of the X100V and everything else. And, and now like, hey, it looks like film. It's like, and Fujifilm's kind of scratching their head going, well, we've been doing this for years. Okay. I mean, they're happy, but you know what I mean? But you're starting to see if Nikon can actually come into this space with these cameras saying, okay, to these younger creators, here is a hybrid camera that's going to give you everything you need. Great lenses, great this, great that. You're going to see, I think 2023 is going to be a big year for Nikon. Big year for them.
I hope so. I'll tell you, Bobby, because, that's another thing that I've harped on so much. If you're catering to us, Nikon, you're doing the wrong thing. You need to be looking at the generations below us because they're the ones that are going to carry you forward. It's not us.
Yeah. True. 100%. 100%.
And I'm sorry. Go on, Wayne.
When Ron had asked the question about what is about Nikon that has people like, talking about, as a former Nikon user, I mean, I'm shooting Sony right now. Yeah, I had some issues with the camera when I was utilizing it. But what bugged me is when I saw all these guys that were out there talking about Nikon is crap, they should die, and so on and so forth. I'm like, you guys don't have any clue about what Nikon is. You have this sport camera that you're saying, Sony's great. And I said, but some of these guys, what the stuff they're using like the Alpha, the mirrorless version of Sony cameras. And they were saying all Nikon stuff is crap. But I'm like, it isn't. So I first discovered Vahagraphy when this channel came out. I'm like, at least somebody's fighting back with this stuff. And that's how I kind of got started with this.
Are you referencing my Jared Poland videos?
I didn't see that one. But before, when I was watching yours, about Nikon, all the things you were talking about, and you were like, guys, Nikon is great. I was like, yeah, we need some people to speak up for Nikon. And then, of course, myself not having Nikon anymore, coming in here and talking about these things, I can say, yes, what it wasn't doing well for me on the video side for what I'm doing. It's always been great for photos. And
Bobby,
if you guys see my channel, you see the photos I've had on my site. I've shot them for years, 200, 300, all the way up to 500 before I went to the Z line. So thank you, all you guys who are out here who are speaking for Nikon and letting the world know that it is a great thing. And I think some of the younger channels I've been seeing are coming up now. They've tried out the Z9 and they've seen what it has to offer, and they're singing its praises.
But I think that's one of the marketing pieces that they lost, they missed, or they didn't even consider. Is you brought it up here. You went to Sony. Why? Because you were doing more video, and you brought it up, Bobby. What other hybrid camera out there does what the Z9 does? Now, I understand the price point might have been too high, but Nikon just did not do anything to market it in that segment, in my opinion. It was always seen as nothing more than the bird in flight camera.
The thing,
I mean,
I gotta say one thing though. I have a bone to pick with Nikon USA's IG account. I don't think they're doing a good job. I like what India is doing. Nikon India, they're getting influence. They're getting other YouTube channels involved in their YouTube channel. I love that. My buddy Frames from India, he's all over the place over there. It's a smaller market, but they have 1 billion people, right, in India.
India's not a smaller market by any stretch of the imagination.
No, meaning like
exactly.
not the
Explain
market,
that.
not
Say
the
that.
market,
Say that.
not the market. Then the company, I guess Nikon India, Nikon USA is bigger than Nikon India, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I mean, here in Thailand, most of the shops they have maybe a handful of Nikon. It's filled with Canon and Sony. You go in there, they maybe have like one of each Nikon, the Z line, but everything for Sony, everything for Canon.
Yeah.
And I think, Bobby, and I hear all the points that are being made, but I think what's one of the Vahagan, one of the things that I think that we overlook is that history Bobby talked about with Nikon is so deep, and we because we're very myopic in the way we view things. We tend to be. I don't know everybody. I guess I do. But when I say I didn't realize until about 3-4 weeks ago, the hundreds of thousands of people that still use the Nikon brand, I'm telling you, that blew me away. Because if you just listen to the mirrorless stats, Nikon's about to go out of business. No. Not even close. It's not even close. When you look at the DSLR brand, Do they need to cater more to the younger? Yeah, of course they do. But the hundreds of thousands of people around this world that are still shooting Nikon, it was staggering, man.
Hey, but can I say something? Can I say something real quick? But you got to admit they're late to the party with mirrorless. They're behind. They're behind. You got to admit that. Z9 is the new tech camera, but we need to fill in that gap, right, Bobby? We need to create, innovate. Like when I say we, I mean like
Yeah.
See the history. The amount of people is not. See, Vahagan, I don't want anybody to hear what I'm saying about the amount of people using it. Does not negate anything you said. Both things can be true at the same time. What you're saying is true, and what I'm saying is true.
Hold on. No. See, I love the Nikon colors. I love the ergonomics. I love the lenses. Nikon lenses are one of the best. I won't change it for anything. But when you see Sony come out with a vlogging camera that follows you in the frame, I'm like, dude, what the heck is this? You know, ZVE1. You know, like,
yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, it is. It's incredible. I'm teaching a student on that now, Vahagan. I got a student who uses that camera right now.
You just got to jump in. We're rolling now. This is what the live stream is all about.
Yeah. There's John.
All rise.
Bobby, you just jump in, man. Don't wait for an opening.
No, man, I'm listening. I love this conversation. We got John and John, are you in a train station in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I'm just getting out of Tin Sao Chui station, heading towards Victoria Harbor. So I
fantastic,
take a look see here.
Yeah.
Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, man.
So there we go, Hong Kong.
There we go. How about this live stream from U.S. to Hong Kong to Singapore, all in between, man.
Thailand, everywhere.
Shit, man, this is great.
And I got my
Z6 and the 24 to 120, huh?
24 120, man. A clear day in Hong Kong. Been waiting for a long time.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Good to see my good buddy Ronald there.
Oh, thank you.
That guy's
good to see you.
Man, you are a celebrity photographer.
I don't know about any of that. No, man, I'm just a hardworking brother. Just out here.
Well, you sure are.
Grinding,
Going to NAM and all that.
Well, I didn't this year, but I'll be doing pictures in Colombia in a few weeks. My wife and I'll be photographing over there in a few weeks.
Nice.
Check out my new ride, huh? Ferrari.
So how I met John, I was interviewing Matt Granger, and I guess John was, hey, Matt Granger brought up John Ishii, and then John Ishii emailed me saying, hey, he was talking about me, I'm John Ishii, and that's how we met up. I had him on my show too, and the rest is history, right, John?
Yeah. Oh man, this is quite a community. If it wasn't for vlog, rock and roll, man.
Yeah, rock and roll, man. You're awesome.
I tell you. And then Bobby, I met a couple years ago at the SL2 launch.
Yeah,
he was the MC there. Dapper looking guy, and then my wife was so impressed she went and bought one.
That's a very good camera system. And then now she's what's your wife shooting on the X2D now, right?
She's got an M11 and an X2D.
Awesome.
John, I miss you, man. I miss you, John Ishii.
I know, but you're a busy man, my friend.
Well,
you're rocking it.
Man. I just gotta I gotta cook while the kitchen's hot, my friend.
Exactly. And you gotta kill it, because this photography, especially in stills, is not many are making the bank like they used to.
Yeah. My son will be back soon, so we'll be back on our video tip together.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But no, thank you, Bobby, for your input, man. Thank you for your perspective on it, because I agree with everything Vahagan and Chuck is saying. I agree with. I was just blown away when I saw certain numbers. Yeah. And but I think, and to Chuck's point specifically, I think, Chuck, part of what Nikon did was over rely on their rich history.
Well, the thing about it is, when you talk about their history, the Sony shooters out there now, especially the newer ones that are in this maybe 4 or 5 years, have no clue what Nikon was. They have no clue. So it really doesn't resonate with them when we talk about, well, Nikon has this great. They only see what Nikon's doing now. And that's been my complaint is, you know, Nikon needs to show them, hey, we are a brand that you can rely on. We have cameras that you can use. And because that's big. I mean, that's the next generation that's going to come up and carry Nikon forward. And I do agree. I've seen some small changes. And Bobby, don't get me wrong, man. I love the tech of Nikon. I have all Nikon equipment. I love Nikon. I'm sticking with Nikon, but I'm not going to be somebody that won't say it like it is. That's just
100%. No, fair enough. And likewise too. I mean, look, you know, it's interesting. I was working with these young interns about a year and a half ago on a shoot. And I was asking them, I said, hey, what camera brands do you know of? And they're like, Sony, Canon. I said, do you know Nikon? Oh yeah, that my parents use that. I said, do you know Leica? What's that? Do you know Hasselblad? What's that? And I'm like, shit, either I'm showing my age here or just these brands aren't really catering to the younger generation. And that's a big factor. And you're absolutely right. And I mean, it's been talked about here on this stream here, and I'm probably sure many times. You've got to target these younger generations. And how do you do it? A lot of it's video. They're not into photography the same way.
It's video.
It's video anymore.
Been preached it for a year and a half. Yes.
It's clearly video. It's clearly video. It is.
Yeah. And that's where it's coming into play. And I think that's where I think Nikon understands that now. And I think we're going to start seeing more products from them. And look, the ZFC, fantastic camera, right? Great little camera. But everybody was asking, what's the first question they ask when the ZFC come out?
Can it do
Why
video?
isn't it? No, video's fine. Why isn't it full frame?
Yeah, man. We're still that's still going around, man. Everybody's hoping for a ZF full frame now.
Hopefully, hopefully one day.
I hope they do it as well, but not right now.
Hey,
Make it look like an F3. I'll be happy as hell.
Bobby,
what's up, John?
you know Big Head Taco, right? Take?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, he mentioned to me because he works closely with Leica Germany, and he says that Leica is starting to cut off the older photographers and concentrate on the Gen Z, because he says the older photographers will die out in the next 20 years. So there's no point.
Wow.
So it all makes sense. And, you know, since it's a luxury brand, they want to go after that market, you see. People are into the luxury brand like Gucci and all. That's why like the Q2, you know, they come out with the Mickey Mouse model, the James Bond, whatever. And even in Leica Malaysia, Chi Lun, he told me that we're not interested in photographers. I'm chasing people who know zero about photography.
Wow.
Nothing. We're not interested in those people because they're not going to last. Even the old guys, the old fellas, you know, are getting tired, not shooting anymore. So that's not the market. So he says it's unfortunate, you know, depending on the market, especially in Asia, they're going after the young ones.
Yeah. Well, I think Leica is going to come after. They're going to go more hybrid. I mean, for sure. I think that they realized the photography angle will always be there. That'll be for their existing clientele, but to get the new people in, you're going to see. I foresee a lot more video specs coming to their cameras, and I think it's going to be very interesting for them in the next year or two. It's going to be fun.
What's wrong with Miles, man? Would somebody please give him his medicine?
They'll see. They'll learn the history and show some respect. Wow, man. Shit.
Miles is a mess. Funny. Miles is a mess, man. But no, thank you guys. It's amazing to see. We live in such a great time of creativity, of innovation. We do.
Yeah, we do.
And I'm excited. I'm here for it. I get to play with all the brands because of the students that I teach, Bobby. Yeah, I have students that I do. I mean, my student just got that latest Sony, so I'm getting to play with that. Look at the colors, and I get to try it out, Wayne, and tell them, you know, what to do. And John, I get an excuse to play with Sony, you know. So
what do you think of the colors?
Camera. Nikon. That's what I think of the colors. Nikon. They can't. They haven't. I don't care. I don't care what Manny Ortiz says. I disagree with him completely.
What did he say? What was his comment on the colors?
that the colors is not that big a deal. It can be tweaked, and I'm like, "Oh, you out your
Oh
mind?
my God, that
Are you
guy.
out your mind? Are you out your mind?" The
He is
Nikon
out of his
colors are
mind.
simply phenomenal, especially compared to Sony. I think Fuji
Absolutely.
colors are incredible.
Mm.
You know, I'm talking about JPEGs, Bobby. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
JPEGs.
no,
Of
yeah,
course,
I know.
of course, we can tweak anything in RAW.
Sure,
But
of
go ahead,
course.
John. What were we about to say, John?
John,
Yeah.
you were saying something?
The colors.
Well, no,
the
I was just agreeing with Ron regarding, what's his name, Ortiz. I mean, what kind of statement is that?
Wait, what did he say? What did he say?
Remember, he said that the colors can be tweaked. The colors is not that big a deal because they can be tweaked in post. And I'm like, well, no, not when you're dealing with some of the deadlines I'm dealing with. You know, I just did, Bobby, I had to do there were 2 police officers that were shot here in the city of Huntsville, Alabama.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
And I got called by the Billy Graham organization, Chuck, and they needed those files right away. I went and photographed that thing, and the JPEGs were just simply just stupendous, Wayne. And no disrespect to Sony,
Oh
but
no.
but the Nikon colors were just like, are you kidding me? The flesh tones was. I just shook my head, and I shot with the Z9 and that 24-120 John has in his hand, and it was just like, are you? I mean, I came back and just shook my head, and I was like, whatever they're doing, man.
Yeah.
Chuck, they need to market. They need to market that. Whatever they're doing, whatever they're doing in those colors need to be marketed.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, here's the thing with Manny's thing. I think where also you understand. I think it's a business for him too. He's selling Lightroom presets, so it also helps a little bit to say these things. But to be frank with you, his work is very. He produces very good work. I'm a fan of his channel. But his work is very much post-processing. His skin tones, he works a lot on the models and it makes them look really good. You know, his wife is gorgeous. I have high respect for him. He's really good. But he does a lot of work in post. So for someone like him who does primarily work in post, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of difference for him. But for the person that needs to get a picture out fast for work, if they're sports photography or they're doing something like you just did, Ron, where you have to get the image out ASAP, you don't have time to sit in photojournalism. You don't have time to go into Lightroom or Photoshop and tweak. That's where it does mean a lot more to have a good base. You know what I mean? So I understand both perspectives on that, but I do say and I'm a huge fan of his work, but I mean, look, it's probably some also a business aspect of it as well, you know?
And let me say,
I'm answering Wayne's question about color.
Just because I'm shooting Sony, I didn't go for the colors. I went for the video, the autofocus, and the stabilization. Right? Because my first Sony was the FX30, which I still use for video. Right now, you guys are seeing me on the A7R5. The color on this one, I think, is way better. The white balance is way better than the FX30.
Agree.
In my earlier videos, when I first got the camera, I talked about it like the color on the camera is crap, the blue isn't correct, and so on and so forth. But I realized most people aren't really complaining about colors. They just want to see the video. It's just me, my photography mindset is saying, this camera colors are not correct. How the heck can people say Sony is so fantastic? But like you're saying, a lot of these guys are tweaking colors. You shoot an S-Log, you can do so much more. And I learned how to shoot an S-Log, and I learned how to tweak stuff. I'm like, that's great. But when I started using this one, and I was in Hong Kong with John last week, and I was like, oh my Lord, this thing is, the colors and it was good. I really didn't use it much for photography. It was more like for the video stuff. I played around with 8K. But the more I start to use it, I'm like, FX30, A7R5, this looks better. It's close to what Nikon looks, but I still think Nikon is top. And this is the reason why I want to get, what's it, Z8, Z6 III, whatever is coming next. I want to get back in because also the other part is my hand cramps up when I shoot too long with a Sony. So yeah, not on Sony. I'm still a Nikon guy.
Hey, Nick T, you don't like Skittles?
Hey, but to be fair to these photographers, right? I mean, to be fair to their business, I mean, they got to make money, and you know what? I mean, it's a business, and you know what? I mean, hey, I give them all respect because at the end of the day, you got to make money because YouTube ad revenue is not going to pay the bills, and if you got to sell a Lightroom preset and do it. If you got to sell some other programs, go for it. And I get it. And look, and for a lot of newbies out there that are getting into Lightroom, a preset does help them out. You know, once you are more advanced, you can understand how Lightroom works. And I think I just saw a comment out here as well from Nick T is like, when AI comes over, yes, Lightroom AI is going to kick it into gear. And I think in another 2 years, you're going to press a button. It's going to do everything for you. You know what I mean? So the preset will probably be null and void, but everybody's got to make a buck. Everybody's got to put food on the table. And I respect them all for it. But, you know, I always say some of the comments that some of these channels make when they're comparing cameras to cameras, you also got to realize is that there's maybe incentives also there. And I think as viewers, we understand that. I mean, everybody's got to make
I got to go, guys. I got to go, guys. Take care.
Back to the real waterfront.
It's been real.
Hey, look at that view. Hold on, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how John's ending it right there, teasing us all. Sunny Hong Kong with the view.
Look at that view, man.
Yeah.
No wonder you got to go.
All right. Take care.
All right,
All right.
John.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you, Bobby.
See you too, John. Take care, man. Take care.
Take care, John.
Thank you, John.
My son
very
is shooting. My son is shooting a Z30, Bobby, in Colombia,
Nice.
and the colors, Wayne, coming out of that thing are ridiculous.
Hmm.
And Chuck, he's doing video. He doesn't do stills.
It's good. I'm glad to hear that.
In the video colors, because I'm speaking to Wayne's point about the color thing. Oh my gosh, Wayne! He sent me some files the other day. I said, son, this is incredible. He went to Medellin. He went to Medellin over in Colombia, where it's really pretty, scenic, and the colors were phenomenal. And I said, did you do anything at DaVinci Resolve? No, this is straight out of the camera. I'm like, oh, okay, powerful, just beautiful stuff.
I mean, the cameras to me that speak with some of the best color science are that I personally like. Nikon, of course, Hasselblad, phenomenal colors, Leica, and Fujifilm. These four to me speak beautifully when it comes to colors. And I mean, it's just great to see. And I mean, and it's great to have a base, honestly, because I play with every single camera, pretty much every single camera system out there. And having a good base is very important, especially if you are going to edit, because Sony files are getting better, like the A7R5, like when you said, it is better than the FX30. And they're continually getting better, but it doesn't pop like Nikon does. Even the raw files, they pop when they come out. Like Lightroom, you're like, okay, and I'm using just camera, straight out of camera. I'm not using Adobe Color or anything. And it's like, there it is. But yeah, man, it's interesting. You know, I think that's where I'm going back to the color science thing. It does make a difference. It definitely does.
I'll tell you guys this. I stopped using Lightroom a few years ago. I'm using Nikon software to edit my photos when I do them. And Sony, raw to TIFF, going into Nikon software and complete the edits there. Still a Nikon guy.
Hey, Chuck, is that M&M's, Chuck?
It is.
Nice.
Is that with the peanuts? Is that with the peanuts?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Why did I even ask? Why did I ask?
Bobby, don't
Hello,
tell
guys.
me
Can you hear me now?
Sponsor me.
What's that?
I said, don't
Can you
tell
hear me
anybody.
now?
I'm trying to get M&M's to sponsor me.
Hey, that's a good sponsor, man. That's a good sponsor.
We hear you, Jose. Good to hear you now.
Hey, Jose.
There you go.
I took your advice and I'm using my phone now.
There you go.
There you go.
But I was listening to the masters talk first, you know.
So
And I just wanted to touch on a point that
to me, because go ahead. Bad joke, bad timing.
no worries here. I just wanted to touch on something Bobby mentioned earlier about the history, because I'm a history buff. I like to analyze the history. I'm old enough. My first serious camera was a Konica T1 film camera, way back in 1970s.
Wow.
And my serious digital was a Canon 7D. Currently, I'm shooting with an Olympus OM1.
Really?
The latest one they got. Because
Nice.
I have the old Olympus I bought in 1986 film camera. I still have it around, but it needs repairs. But one of the things Bobby mentioned was what's the allure with Nikon? And he said it. What I can use another analogy. What's the allure with Leica? Like the heritage. Basically, they invented 35 millimeter film.
You see why that's an issue in marketing today, though, right?
Yeah, I understand.
Now with the new M6. Now with their new M6.
Yeah, I understand, but this is the marketing issue that Chuck's talking about. Maybe they're going around about it wrong. Maybe they should just educate this younger generation on the history.
Look, I really don't want to tell Nikon how to do their business, but I mean, there is an improvement that needs to be made. I don't know what it is, but like I said, when you look at the facts, I mean, Sony is just blistering right now, and they have been for a while. And that's because of their recognition. Is it with the younger element? I think it is. I think the younger element's used to the Sony name. Most never heard of Nikon. I say most, not all of them, but most never heard of Nikon. But they have heard of Canon too. Still, Sony is their preferred method of video and photography.
Yeah.
Because
why is that? Sony, look at the company.
That's the younger generation
that is
spreading that amongst themselves by word of mouth. And how do you break into that? I don't know. Even the color science that you brought up, Ron, the bottom line is they don't know it. They probably don't care. And that's the issue that we fall on today is most people don't care. They see what they want or hear. People are telling them this is what you need and whatever, and they're going to go buy it. I don't have an answer to it, but I know that there has to be something done in the marketing to get this out to that generation, because again, they are the ones that are going to carry Nikon.
While both things are true, Chuck, you got to admit what Jose is saying. Just on Sony PlayStations, just on Sony Nintendo, those are names that have been out there for years and years and years and years.
Right.
I mean, so kids have grown up, with Sony long before the Alpha series came out, long before the just on the PlayStations and the portable toys and the Walkmans and the musical stuff. That's 50 years of that. That ain't just started. That's 40, 50 years. Chuck, it's a fact. It's 40 or 50. It's on 40 or 50 years of that. My point.
I agree with you 100%.
My point being,
just ignore it and say, "Oh well."
No. You don't ignore it. You do both things. You do both. You do both things. Right. You do both things. You do both things. You have to acknowledge that Nikon needs some toys. Nikon needs to develop some hand toys like Sony did or something.
Nikon
I'm being facetious.
Nikon just needs to catch up with the bodies. Make that new tech into lower, more affordable cameras, and they're good to go. They got the lenses down pat, so that's all we need. Z8.
They have the technicians to do it. I mean, they have the science to do it. They have the money.
And Tony said Bobby said he is seeing improvements. Would you extrapolate on that more, Bobby, on what you're saying in terms of the marketing stuff? What you're seeing?
Yeah, I see they're definitely more aggressive. They're definitely reaching out to more KOLs, and they're reaching out to people out there too. I can tell locally here at least. The marketing team here is very aggressive out there, and they are trying to make a difference. And it is going to be a challenge to get people away from the Sonys and out there because of look. It comes down to what do people think of Sonys when you look at the two factors: size and autofocus in video. And they have these three things down pat. And the younger generation, they don't want to work for a camera. They don't want they don't want to work hard to take a photo or take a video. They want to work. They want to have confidence. It's like, why would I get an FX30 over a Z50, for example, or whatever? It's like they're both great cameras. But I know with the Sony, will the autofocus work more? Possibly. Okay. It's small, whatever the case may be. Is that true or not? They both are going to work great. But to their ideas, that's what they see the world coming out to be. So, and I also think that where Nikon can actually play a little bit is having some fun with the camera designs. Because if you look at the designs of the camera, which I actually like the Z9, I think it's one of those beautiful cameras in terms of when you look at the angular design of it, it's kind of cool. It's got a very, very interesting vibe. But you take the ZFC, for example, Now you get a 20 megapixel APS-C sensor, which is fine for the average person, but to get the buzz, to get people talking, you got to come out with something full frame. You got to come out with something that's going to be retro vibe. That's cool. That's like, whoa, that's a cool camera. I didn't expect that from Nikon. And then you start teaching people about the history. Because sometimes you have to come out with something cool, then they learn about the history versus trying to teach them the history to then to respect what's out now. And I think that may be a different approach to take with it. And again, honestly, I feel like if I was Nikon, I would start getting away from the APS-C smaller line and go full frame. Why? They don't have the lineup to compete with Fujifilm yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Fujifilm has got that market locked in front and center. Even Sony doesn't have it.
Yeah.
When it comes to APS-C. So I would focus full frame and come out with really good value price full frame cameras with good glass, which Nikon has, and go that way. And I understand we were talking about the APS-C cameras earlier in the stream for wildlife, but honestly speaking, like you can do it when you get into wildlife or sports photography because you can get that extra reach, but then now with DX and FX mode and your mirrorless camera systems, do you even need an APS-C camera? Probably not.
And that's where you're hearing most of the fervor is in the wildlife shooters wanting the pro body APS-C camera so they can put the big glass on it and get better reach with organic shots rather than DX mode or some crop mode or some whatever. So but I think it's a smaller segment of the population within even the Nikon community. Now they'll get mad at me for saying that, and I'm not saying that Nikon shouldn't do it. I've said that they should. It's just not right now. But going back to you, Bobby, on the video, I think if you want to reach the younger generation, whether you like it or not, I'm talking to all the photographers out there, whether you like it or not, video is the way to do that. And so many people don't understand how much these youngsters are using video. And it's not just for YouTube. They don't understand. I've invited them to check it out, and indie filmmakers to see what they're doing with these hybrid cameras. They're affordable. They work extremely well. And Nikon is now checking the block there, and they need to continue to do that. But the marketing needs to acknowledge that. I think more.
Now,
not just photos.
Let me stop in here a second. This marketing stuff that they're supposed to be doing for the Z8, if they get a bunch of influencers that also use Sony cameras, I don't know if they're paid, but if they can get some of those people on to use the cameras and talk about them on their channels, I think that's one way to get in these younger people's mind. You have to have some people to give a bit of the history of what's been going on. Here's what the camera is. Here's what we have now. But have to notice that, because I think Nikon did some kind of marketing campaign where they give cameras to people or influencers who've never used the Z9. And you remember I did a video some months back, and it's like all these guys are non-Nikon users. They go, wow, when you ask my entire crew, Nikon, like, what's that? I wouldn't use Nikon for video, or I wouldn't do that. And these guys use the camera and they're realizing, holy crap. So this is a perfect opportunity right now. And I'm hoping, based on what Mike is saying, is that over the next few weeks, we'll see different influencers and so on talking about it. And I hope it's some of the big guys.
Well, it's a photocentric community, no doubt about it. That's its bread and butter. And even though they were the first to bring video to a DSLR, they just didn't carry it forward. Canon picked it up, and Canon did extremely well with it, by the way, because there were people that were buying Canon cameras instead of Nikon or anything else because they were doing video. That's how prominent video has become now. That's the market. That's the target audience, I think, for Nikon. You've got the photography folks locked. We're in.
Yeah,
you need to get all the video people in, and they have the perfect opportunity. And I think that they're going to do it. I think that they will. And Nikon acknowledged that last year, back in January, talking about their forward thinking and really accelerating video. And I think that's a great move. They're smart. They know that.
They should throw the kitchen sink in. That's what I feel. I mean,
well, they pretty much did it with the Z9. Yeah.
Look at Ronald Pollard. I admire his work because he's a working photographer.
Yep.
Okay. But maybe he doesn't shoot too much video. So if you're going to throw a video-centric camera, throw the kitchen sink. Look at the problem Canon had. But they put limitations. They put limitations on On the
Sure.
cameras, you can only record 30 minutes.
All that's
But
changing
Nikon has gotten so
for
good at
everybody.
it that look at the lawsuit they just got. Because the other
Right.
company acknowledged that Nikon was getting good there, you know?
Well, let
So-
me
Well, the whole
finish
raw,
one
the whole
statement,
raw thing is
Ron.
that's a very
One
challenging
statement.
issue.
I want to
Yeah.
hand it over to Bobby too. One statement. You can do all of that nowadays. That's the great thing. We don't have to have a video centric camera. You can excel both still photos and video in the same body. That's what's so unique. So we don't have to sacrifice, but we still have people in the Nikon camp that are fighting Nikon. I don't want any video in a camera. I'm tired of it. I don't use it, blah, blah, blah. But don't use it. That's fine. But don't try to stop or quell or squash Nikon from doing all this video in the camera. So anyway, Ron and you and Bobby, I know you guys were ready to chomp here.
Real quick, I just want to say to Jose, I hear you. And because I work with so many young people in their 20s who are using Canon and Sony and Fuji, I'm running across a lot of that. It's not just Sony, but it is a lot of Sony. Secondly, my student that is now at Bobby, there's a school in Georgia called Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD. Okay. It is like the Juilliard for photography video in the Deep South. They have two campuses, one in Augusta, Georgia, and one in Atlanta, Georgia. It's world renowned, SCAD. My student who just turned 18, she's a Canon shooter. I said, Caitlin, in your photography classes, what ratio are you seeing? And this is all 18 to 21-year-olds. What are you seeing in ratio between Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fuji? She said, honestly, more Canon. I said, really? She said, yeah. I said, even for video? She said, yeah. A lot of people use, there are people who use Sony, but she said it's Canon more so. And Nikon is third at SCAD. And that for me is more significant. And so I'm saying that because it is true. The way of the world is going that video. She said, and they use a lot of the students have R62s and R6s. That's what the students are using at SCAD. A lot of R6s and a lot of R62s. And she said, and then you might see a Sony A7 III or the A7R3, something like that. But she said, and then Nikon, she said, but mostly, and it's all pro photo lights, but it's in terms of lighting, it's all pro photo.
Yeah.
But in terms of the camera brands, she said a lot more Canon than she sees anything else. Almost double Canon than anything else.
Yeah. Well, Canon's been very smart with their whole releases with the R7, R8, R6 II. They're really going more to the lower end and really trying to capture that market where, and I think Nikon is now trying to build the higher end, which fair enough, because they kind of built the lower end before. It comes down to, we were talking about, I think they actually put a message up here. I saw this from SIT BK007. And it says if Leica didn't aggressively promote their offers on IG, I wouldn't know about $1,300 off and then end up buying a Leica. Nikon needs to be more aggressive promoting the Z8 and other Z lines. And this is absolutely true. The promotion, the getting it out there, letting people understand and know what these cameras can do. And I think this goes for all manufacturers out there. Some actually have organic reach. Nikon might need to build it up a little bit more by pushing it out there a bit more. I think it's going to help a lot. Now, we talked about earlier about getting out to YouTubers' hands. It's going to be hard to get into some of the bigger channels without paying a lot of money because they're already incentivized by Sony and by Canon, and they're giving.
And let's face it, that's reality. That's reality.
Yeah.
Yes,
they're getting money thrown at them, and some of the channels that we've already talked about here are probably incentivized in other ways to work with other brands. So, I mean, that's part of the business that we're in, and Sony has played that game very, very well. Canon has played that game very, very well, and they're giving incentives to the stores that sell the cameras. I think there was there from the drunk wedding photographer up. I'm saying, having worked at Ritz and Sammy's, I can say Sony was on point with their in-person marketing and incentives for us to sell Sony. Canon was the same. That is a big proponent.
Yeah.
And that's where I think to play the game. Now, Nikon, of course, has lost some market share. And then, of course, they moved their manufacturing from Japan for a lot of aspects to Thailand, which, to be honest with you, if you live in Asia, you know Thailand makes some phenomenal products. I have no issues with that whatsoever.
I don't either.
Because Thailand, I mean, they make Triumph motorcycles now, and some of them I was even sometimes better out of the Triumph than out of the Thailand out of the UK. Yeah. But they're really doing some good stuff. But it's really going to come down to talking about the features, making it very incentivizing the buyers out there. And they can do it. They can do it. And it's going to happen. I think the Z8, I foresee the Z8 marketing be very different than the Z9. I think the Z8 is going to, if this camera does exist, that it does, I think they're going to take a different approach, because being that it's smaller, based on what we're seeing from the specs out there, and being that it's going to be somewhat very similar to the Z9, that's going to entice a lot of younger creators to actually pick up the camera. People didn't want to pick up the Z9 because it was very big. Now we did as photography lovers, and I use it for video as well. But I can tell you, I went to go to F1 here in Singapore last year, and I brought the Z9 with me, and I couldn't take it out on the track because they said, your camera's too big. We're not letting you take it on the track. Unless you're media, we're not letting you take it out on the track, because I'm not media. I was there as an influencer. But if I had a smaller camera, sure. It's not so, you know what I mean? Yeah. But if I had, let's say, a Z7 or Z6 II or whatever the case, I might have been okay with it, with the small lens package on it. But with the Z9, it's like, okay, here you go, Pro coming into play. No.
Hey, can I just say right now, and everybody needs to jump in here and let's make this happen. Nikon, if you are listening, get this camera in Bobby's hands. Get it in his hands, because he can speak to an audience that we can't. And I know he's going to have a lot of influence on how that camera is reviewed. Please, Nikon, get it in Bobby's hands.
Get it into Ronald Pollard's hands too.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got to get a piece of it. I think no matter what, it's a camera that can reach out to everybody. Yeah.
Thank you, Jose. Exactly. I'll send you that incentive a little bit later, Jose. Thank you. I'm gonna do Sony. Guys, I'm gonna do like Sony did. I'm gonna get you that incentive, brother.
But hey, guys, I gotta jump into a meeting really quickly here. I don't know if I can jump off and come back on. I don't know if you guys will still be on. If you guys are, I'll come back on in a bit. But I just got to jump off and get into a meeting, if that's okay.
We're just gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta go too. So, Bobby, it was a pleasure knowing you. Ronald, finally I got to know you. The gentleman there, Wayne and Vahagraphy, Novia channel.
Thank you, guys.
And Chuck, I know Chuck, he's the legend. So
well, I want to say thank you, Bobby. You're amazing. Thank you for coming on, man. Really
thank you so much.
it. Guys, check out Bobby Tonelli on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel. Everybody, I want to thank the panelists.
Thank you so much.
And rock and roll, guys. Thanks to everybody in the chat too. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chuck.
All right, Bobby.
Thanks, my pleasure, Wayne. Jose, take care.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. All right, bye.
Thanks, guys. Rock and roll.
Wow.